This podcast is part of the Everyday Heroes Podcast Network, the network for first responders and those who support them.
Disclaimer. All views expressed on What Makes Us Fire are solely those of the person or persons giving them. What Makes Us Fire does not represent or claim to represent any particular city or fire department, and therefore make the claim that all views and standpoints are affiliated with What Makes Us Fire and with What Makes Us Fire only. Any mention of certain fire departments or cities within the interviews are solely for informational and opinion-based dialogue. In short, if you have a problem with what's published, just say something about it and don't be a Richard.
What is up, What Makes Us Fire family? This is Josh, your host of the What Makes Us Fire podcast, founder of the What Makes Us Fire nonprofit foundation. Thank you for joining us on the show today. Before we get started, I want to talk to you a little bit about the What Makes Us Fire 501c3 nonprofit foundation. We are a nonprofit foundation dedicated to helping our civil service members, be it military, first responder, active retired veteran, and our volunteers get and receive inpatient mental health treatment. And we do that by bridging the gap. That is the financial aspect of going and receiving that treatment. Too often our civil service members have to make that difficult choice between going and receiving that treatment and taking a cut in pay while we do it. And I promise you, if any one of us have families, we're going to choose to make sure that our family does not struggle before we go and get that help. So with What Makes Us Fire nonprofit foundation, we are going to supplement their income. We're going to pay for that treatment. We're going to pay for their groceries, their water bill, their electricity bill, their mortgage, their car note. And we're going to also make it so that it's like that individual still going to work, working their overtime, their second job, and continuing running their business. I do not want finances to be a deciding factor on whether or not our civil service members go and receive the help that they are looking for. They should not have to feel like they're making another sacrifice just to get the help they need. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about the What Makes Us Fire nonprofit foundation, go to WhatMakesUsFire.com. You can donate there. You can get What Makes Us Fire merchandise, hats, beanies, shirts, pants, bikinis, shorts, you name it. All proceeds go to the general fund of the nonprofit. You could also share the podcast there and learn about upcoming events. Speaking of upcoming events, we here at What Makes Us Fire are supporting 2 events coming up within the next couple months. First, March 25th, the Great Londini Meetup. It is a meetup, social media meetup, where a bunch of creators are going out there, purchasing tickets, and the whole event is to support Tackle 22 Fishing. If you don't know what Tackle 22 Fishing is, they are a 501c3 nonprofit with the mission of tackling the 22 a day. And they do this by taking our veterans out on these amazing fishing excursions and fishing trips. If you would like to help support, come out and meet What Makes Us Fire there at the event, you can go to TheGreatLondini.com, click on events, and you will find all the information you need there. Or you can go to WhatMakesUsFire.com, click on the events tab, and you will see the Great Londini Meetup. Our second event that we're going to be going to is the Cheer Choice Awards. That's right, the Cheer Choice Awards, put on by Spread the Cheer USA, sponsored by Soldier Solutions, all of which are great friends of the What Makes Us Fire nonprofit foundation and podcast, and of course myself. The Cheer Choice Awards is an award show for social media creators. It is a way for you to show your appreciation to these social media creators that are not only making a difference online, but also within their communities and around the world. What Makes Us Fire made 3 categories of the 16 different categories for the Cheer Choice Awards, and we could not be more humbled. Voting ends on February 15th for the general public to place their votes. What Makes Us Fire is in the Cheer of the Year Award, which is a humanitarian award due to the nonprofit. We are in the military and first responder category, and we are also in the motivational, inspirational category for the content that we create. Look, if we don't win, I don't care. I am just happy that we are among some of these creators that are making a difference. If you would like to learn a little bit more about all that and go and place your votes, again, you can go to spreadthecheerusa.org. Click on Cheer Choice Awards. There you will find all the information you need to go and vote and see who the nominees are, purchase your tickets, and check out the events that are going to be going on that weekend. What Makes Us Fire will be there. I will be there. If you see me, please come up, say hi, give me a hug, give me a high five, whatever it is you need to do. I don't care. I want to meet all of the What Makes Us Fire family. Moving on, I want to thank the Spagnoletti Law Firm here in the Houston, Texas area for being a sponsor of the What Makes Us Fire nonprofit foundation and podcast. Not only that, they are the legal counsel for the What Makes Us Fire nonprofit, and I cannot thank them enough. If you are looking for any type of lawyer questions or lawyer help, please look up the Spagnoletti Law Firm here in the Houston, Texas area. I do believe they work pretty much anywhere. Give them a call, find out if you need any help. I also want to bring up the Everyday Heroes Podcast Network. It is a podcast network where you can listen to podcasts created by, run by, and produced by civil service members, military, and first responders. Go give them a listen. Check out that podcast channel. Every podcast there is, like I said, first responder and civil service member owned and run. Okay, now on to the real stuff. Our guest today is someone that likes to keep his face hidden, and for good reason. If you know him on social media, do you really know him? His name's Leo, and the movement that he has created, I believe a lot of us are behind. As a matter of fact, I can almost guarantee almost 7.5 million of us are behind. He's the creator of the Great Londini Movement, known as TheGreatLondini.com on social media. Him and I sat down and talked. Leo is a veteran. He's a veteran that battles with some mental health issues, and he has found a way to do it very healthily. But more so, we talk about what his mission is and what he's doing with his social media platform, the people he's going after, the change he's trying to make to help others battle with certain triggers and certain things that happen to stop certain things from happening. I don't want to get too detailed because he is very passionate about this subject, and I fucking love the passion he has with it. I don't believe there's anybody out there doing what he's doing the way he's doing it and as well as he's doing it. So I'm going to let him describe everything to you. Be prepared. He definitely has something to say. And I can't thank him enough for sharing what he did. So, without further ado, and if you're watching on YouTube, I'm sorry. You're not going to see his face. You might see the side of his face for a split second, but that's about it. He asked me to blur out his face, and with respect, I did. Ladies and gentlemen, Leo, creator of the Great Londini Movement.
And so when you jumped in, I was just like, oh, awesome. Landini, yeah, cool. Yeah, let's talk to him. And then you started talking about the event and everything. And then you did this great marketing ploy where you said, if you buy a ticket, I'll be on your podcast. And I'm like, well, that's a damn good way to get a ticket sold, brother. I got you.
Yeah, I mean, it's not something I guess in context, this account was created in, April of last year. So before that, I had no social media. I think maybe I had a Facebook for a minute. So it's not just you, or it's not just the people who get weirded out with people react differently from when I enter a room. Mm-hmm. It freaks me out because I don't understand it. Maybe I guess if I would have been a TikToker first, like if I would have been like somebody who was like flipping through the FYP and just got enamored with what somebody was doing. Like I am now. I have a lot of people that I'm fans of on TikTok, and I could imagine if I was to go live with one or two of them, it probably would freak me out. But some of the reactions that it gets it borderlines and freaking. It's not, I want to say scary, like like I'm scared. It's weird. It's a weird feeling because all you can do is be humble and just be grateful that people are so happy with the product that you're putting out. And it's also weird because the product that I'm putting out because it's what I feel it's what I feel I can give to the world, I guess. So I don't have abs, I don't have a great musical talent. What I have is a set of skills that make me a nightmare for assholes like trolls, right? And that's
exactly.
That's my Liam Nielsen. So I'm just so cool that people like what I'm trying to do. So there's no need to apologize. You shouldn't have freaked out.
I didn't. Well,
makes me less easy. Yeah.
Well, that was the thing. I didn't freak out. Now, Naomi, on the other hand, Mama's G crew. Now, her on the other hand, and her son, they were very, very excited to see you. But I kind of understand. Obviously, What Makes Us Fire, our family is not to the Londini family size yet, and I say yet because I am continuing to work on it and continue to spread our message. But you are I can't wait to see your face when I say this. You are a social media influencer. Yeah. There it is. There's that face.
All right.
Everybody I say that to that I have on the show is you are influencing people, whether you'd like to believe it or not, through your social media. And that by definition, you are a social media influencer. And the Great Londini is a fairly large social media influencer. You're having a bigger impact than just on social media. And I don't believe it's just the content that gets your following and your family to grow. It's what you're doing with that following and family, what your purpose is. It's not just being a TikToker, like you said earlier, having flat abs or looking good or doing some tricks on video. You have a purpose to what you're doing. And I really do believe that people that have purpose that people can get behind, those are the people that are going to get the recognition that purpose deserves and that person deserves for doing what they're doing.
I mean, that's really nice of you to say. Yeah, it's true. Whatever I think about where it's at now, it's really hard to quantify it because I don't even know how big it is. Like, I'm just, for example, like when unfortunately, a really good guy passed away. Cybermax.
Yes, Cybermax. I was actually a part of his crew. I jumped in a few of his board meetings. Yeah. He wanted What Makes Us Fire to be a part of it. I met him in Vegas last year, and God bless his soul. I miss him to death. He was an amazing human being.
He is a good dude, and it's unfortunately like I got to meet him in Nashville, and because I have social anxiety, I know that I was not as kind to him as I could have been. I mean, I was kind to him. I mean, I wasn't rude, but I mean, like the guy's such a loving guy. Like you can't match his level of love, right? Like the guy was he was like hugging, and I was like, and I'd hug him, and then he'd come back 10 minutes later, want to hug, and I'm like, well, now it's getting uncomfortable. But at the end of the now that he's gone, I'm thinking, well, goddamn, the guy was just a good guy. He wanted to hug, and anyway, so when he passed, after his mom and sister and all those people had acknowledged it, I wanted to obviously do the right thing. And my thought and just tell everybody, hey, what I thought, which was I was devastated because he was gone. And where I'm going with this is that not even 2 hours after I made that video, it was on the news. I can't remember what it was. Some big news outlet picked it up and said, the Great Londini announced his death of TikTok celebrity. And it's such a weird thing to think about it because one, it's not true, right? Because I was like the 80th person because I was actually on vacation at that point to announce it. But it's also crazy because something I said was in the news. And you think about like just being TikTok and all those things and just making silly ass videos and putting on a mask and stuff. But it is true. Where the movement is going is much bigger than I could ever imagine. And I think rightfully so, because if you look at where we're at in society right now, when I came onto the scene, there were a lot of people attempting to do similar things. But by doing similar things, it was mostly dudes from South Carolina, North Carolina, in wife beaters, tatted up, standing in front of the screen, flexing their arms, saying, if you don't stop trolling me or if you don't stop harassing my people, I'm going to come and I'm going to get you. Right. And it was, and I understand their anger. It's an issue, man. Like, people don't understand the whole, the range of the problem because they think it's just trolling and people can just turn off their computers. It's not. Like, there's people.
It's not as easy as just ignoring the troll because there's people out there that.
It's not just trolling. Like, so people. Okay, so the average person. Let's just take there's a guy, I won't say his name. There's a guy in this app that's got a big following. He's almost at 1 million followers. Mm-hmm. And he does similar content. He tries to call out people, even though sometimes he crosses the line, I think, and he doxes people, which I'm not a fan of.
Well, doxing is technically illegal.
Well, it's right. So that the legal definition, well, what makes doxing illegal, for those who don't know what doxing is, apparently a lot of people don't, it's just taking private information that you couldn't, like if I go to your profile and I say your name's David, and I go on my thing and I say David is, an asshole, I didn't dox you.
No, you did not dox.
Yeah, but if I took your name, looked up your address, put your address on the internet, which you weren't publishing, and then said, I bet it would be really great if we go beat up, this asshole at 111 30th Street, right?
Right. Yeah.
And I just doxed you. Yeah.
A call to action is illegal. You have a freedom of speech. You don't have a freedom of consequence. And the only limitations on freedom of speech is you cannot have a call to action for violence or for a movement against the federal government.
It has to be intent, right? You have to be
intent there has to be. Correct.
So now the problem isn't that these kids are just trolling. That's fine. You could ignore all that. The problem is that where they're taking this to. They're taking it to a level where they're trying to SWAT people. There's been 7 people. It's the FBI is all over this thing now, who've had people swatted, hundreds of TikTok creators, mostly people who do content like mine, doxing, putting people's personal information out there, trying to take videos of people. I have been people have attempted to dox me about 100 times over, 100 different videos. They've made up fake family members. People are trying to ruin people's lives, and it's all over this social media thing. And it's really, really crazy what's going on. Not just from my level, but from everybody's level. I've heard of having people come knock on their door, to people getting the fistfights, to an incident that happened in the UK where the guy who was positive content creator was driving down the street. Somebody saw the street sign where he lived. They went and burnt down his house. The young man that got killed in New York. Like, the issue of like what's going on social media and like the harassment and bullying and all that stuff. The trolling is the least of the worries. It's where it goes, like where it's going from, like the people who are like feuding and the warring. So that's kind of what I'm saying. Is like it comes off silly when people think, oh, well, you made 7.3 million followers tracking down bullies. It's not at all what we're doing. Like we're not trying to track down little kids or trying to get people grounded. We're literally trying to prevent people from killing themselves, because like you get doxxed, right? Some of the FBI or local police come knocking on your door. There's very, very strong cases that if you're not in the right position when that happens to you, you could get shot, or you could get hurt, or you could get worse, or Child Protective Services is called and your child gets taken away because somebody doesn't want you, and like for whatever reason you get the wrong Child Protective Services. There's crazy shit going on out there, and what we're trying to do is prevent as much of it as possible. So.
Well, and you're doing a great job on it, because if you weren't, you wouldn't be getting the recognition that you're getting, right? And what I respect about you and what you do is that you take the time to do the research, right? You don't just look at a profile or look at a comment that is off color and automatically attack them and then start posting about it, right? You do your research, because I was talking about this with a friend of mine, or actually my girlfriend the other day, is there's this girl that was trying to do similar things to what you were doing. However, instead of doing the research and the background checks and everything and making sure the profile was a legit profile and not just some fake profile to make somebody else look bad, she just automatically went after this guy who happened to be a cop. He made this profile, I'm not going to say the guy, but this profile made an off-color comment about a young child, about saying like, where's your hot daughter? I can give her a husband, something like that. It's an older gentleman. He happens to be a cop. And she went and full force on him, found his name and everything and where he worked and all this other stuff. And my question to my girlfriend was, how does she know that was actually him? Like, how do you know that was actually that person that made, because when you went to the profile, he didn't have a lot of followers. He didn't follow a lot of people, and it looked very suspicious. Right. But the person that was outing him
It's in good intent, but good intent doesn't necessarily excuse the action, right? You have to make sure you do the background checks and make sure that you're doing the right thing when you do something like that.
Yeah, you have to, and you're absolutely right. So what you just, like, the key thing you said there is intent, right? And there's a lot of people that do exactly what you just said. Most of them die on the vine. Most of them don't ever make it past. I mean, they'll grow quick. They'll hit like 10,000 followers, and then TikTok will promptly start banning their accounts, which rightfully so. But that's kind of why the approach is. I'll give you another example. Yesterday, I did a video, then I took the video down because I just didn't want to cause any issues. But similar situation, there was a guy, 21 years old, posted a video, or well, he was on his Instagram live, and he said some off-color things, some very disgusting and disturbing things, and like racist things. A black guy, he was saying some racist things, saying he was going to go, cap somebody, and somebody made a video about that. Somebody with 3 million followers, which a person I respect, but for the most part. And and this is what people kind of do if they're smart. And then there's, the less smart who just out and don't give a shit, whoever gets hurt. He said, it's been assumed that he's a police officer. And if he is a police officer, this is a very dangerous threat because he can go, well, it's the problem with like having a platform is that even that sentence right there is very dangerous, right? If you say that somebody is or could be a police officer, no one's understanding context, right? They're not poring over the minutia of your words. Like, they're hearing police officer. That's the word they're hearing. And it turns out the kid was 21 years old. He just turned 21. There's no possible way he could have been a police officer. I think he was an auxiliary police officer. I just did the research and then I made a video. I was like, yo, bro, like, really, like, there's police officers getting shot, like, in New York. Like, why do you need to raise more hatred towards police officers, especially if the guy's not even a police officer? You didn't do your work. Like, why didn't you just do a little more research? And obviously not hard to do, because New York is one of those states where like every single government employee and how much they make is on their website. Mm-hmm. So why couldn't you have just done that? Now, there is this percent chance that he's a police officer because he was 21 2 weeks ago. The problem is he was wearing his uniform. He had just turned 20. And to become a police officer in New York, you have to apply at 20, which means he would have had to have gone through the entire police academy while he was working at Home Depot, and became a police officer. Chances are he was an auxiliary police officer, which isn't a police officer. It's like,
it's like neighborhood watch.
It's like neighborhood watch. And not that that's the bad thing.
That's not a bad thing. It's just,
right.
You're not.
So my point is, why would you do that? Why would you put that information out there? My approach was, what my approach evolved into is, it doesn't really matter how great my research is and my online searching abilities are. It doesn't really no matter how good my team's skills are. I would never present any information to the public as it being a fact, unless it's a fact. For example, if somebody says this is their profile picture, here's their profile picture. Most of the information that we turn in is only directly to the people that need it, whether it be the parents, the police, the school district, an employer. And then the way that information is presented to them is like, listen, I don't know. Because there's absolutely no, unless you fucking standing right there, there's no way you know. Here's the information that I have. Here's what I've gathered. Here's the videos. Here's the information with the profile. Here's why the profile picture returns back to me as this person. Here's this information. I'm not trying to coach anybody to what to do, but the good example is this kid that was going around saying that all Black people should die, or all Black children should die. Easily found them, submitted the information to their parents, gave them the information, gave them the video, gave them all the friends, and then of course he was in the video with one of his friends. 100% this kid. But even with that fact, I just gave the information to them directly. And then the next day, the kid came on my live and said, hey, like, why did you have to tell my parents? I was just doing dark humor, whatever the fuck dark humor is supposed to be. And I said, listen, kid, if I saw a person out in public saying all Black people should die, standing in the middle of a mall, screaming out like a fucking racist lunatic, I would try to find your parents and say, yo, get your kid, he's insane. The internet is no differently. You think you're not going to stand out in the middle of the street and yell out racist obscenities, especially because you're a child. You don't really have any rights, to be honest. So you're going, if I could find a way to stop you from doing these things, I'm going to try to stop it. But even in that case, you wouldn't walk up to that person's parent and go, hey, this kid, you need to throw him in jail. You need to smack him with a belt. You're just presenting that parent. Here's what I saw, whatever. Or if it's the police, you're not going to the police saying, hey, I'm adjudicating this right now. Fucker's going to jail. He did something bad. No. And that's the problem with what's going on with social media, is that these people aren't trying to get to the bottom of something. They're not trying to inform somebody about a problem. They're trying to adjudicate, right? They're trying
to be judge, jury, and execution.
They want you to get upset. They want you to know about it, and then they want to leave it out to the general public to figure out what should be done next. That's not only dumb, that's
very dangerous.
Yes.
Extremely dangerous. The court of public opinion, as we have seen, can be very, very, very volatile, and you have to be very careful on how you approach that and the information that you put out for that. This conversation already started a little bit differently than most of my shows did, but because it's okay. So if you think about my podcast, think like Joe Rogan, just have a conversation and we just jump right into it. Whatever happens, happens. I don't care. However, we did discuss earlier that you are a veteran, right? And the What Makes Us Fire podcast and the nonprofit, we're very mental health forward. Our nonprofit helps civil service members, be it military or first responder, get inpatient mental health treatment. Veterans, retirees, volunteers, anybody that's within the civil service to get inpatient mental health treatment. We do that by bridging the gap that is the financial aspect of getting that treatment. Too many times we heard it, that a civil service member will say, hey, I need this kind of help. But when they are presented with that help, there's nothing there that allows them to go and get the help and maintain the income that they had for their families.
Absolutely.
So what our nonprofit does is not only do we go up to taking care of the treatment costs, but we supplement their income. So it's just like they're still working their job, they're still getting their overtime, they're still working their second job, or they're still running their personal business, because I don't want that whole financial aspect of going to get help should not be a decision maker on whether or not you go get that help. And the reason why I created it is because I had to make that decision. I was presented with the opportunity to go to an inpatient mental health facility, which I needed and I wanted. But if I went, I would be just on sick time. I would lose my overtime. I wouldn't be able to work the second job that I had, and my family would suffer financially. Well,
yeah.
Am I going to go and get help? And
I look at it from my scenario. When I got out, because ultimately, even though I did serve all my time, when I got my DD-214, my injuries what actually it medically separated me. So, towards the latter part of my career, it was either EAS or keep going to the medical board. I had to go to the medical board because I realized I was going to file for whatever. But because when I was getting out, I was just excited to get out because I loved the military. I loved what I was doing, but I was ready for my next chapter of my life. I started working, right? So I got out and I was working. I think my first job was General Motors. So that took me to Detroit. But where I got out of, or where I dipped into the Marine Corps, was from Florida. So the VA scheduled me for my first appointment out of the military in Miami. Well, I didn't make it because I was in Detroit. So after that, and I think I let a year lapse, I tried to reapply for my benefits to get benefits because I wasn't making a lot of money. Got rejected again a year later. I just kept getting rejected. I didn't go to the VFW. I didn't know all the things that I know now that I could have done, but there was no support for me. So it was either I was going to make the money to pay my own medical bills or do all the things that I needed to do for the injuries that I had, or get a job that had good enough insurance, or don't. A lot of people believe that if you get injured in the military, it's automatic that you're going to get some kind of treatment. But unless you retire, you don't have access to the VA. You don't have access to anything unless you get a percentage when you get out. And if anybody knows anything about the VA, there's rooms. I don't know if it's still there, but there's pictures. You can look it up on the internet where the floor is bowing from all the paperwork, from all the veterans who've never got their medical benefits. They're still waiting to be processed through the system. So there are veterans that just get out and just don't get any benefits at all. And they can't go to the VA because they didn't do the full 20. As most people don't. Most people don't do career military. So there's a lot of people that need help.
Well, and that was kind of the point that I was getting to, is that, you're a veteran, and, you were more than willing when you came on the live to talk about the issues that being a veteran and the mental health issues that come along with it.
Yeah.
What I like to do, though, is before we kind of dive into that part of the conversation, is I like to ask the question of where you grew up and how you grew up. And the reason why I like to ask that question is I want people to know that before you were a military member, before you were a veteran, before you were a Marine, before you were the Great Londini, you were just another average human being growing up, trying to make it, and you suffered through everyday human life, right? It just because there's a notoriety tied to your name, or a uniform tied to your name, or a badge tied to your name, doesn't make you anything less than or more than what we are first, human beings. And a lot of the times, the history that is being told through your past will allow others to realize that they are not alone in the situations that they have gone through. Now, I have had guests that had perfect lives growing up, but I've also had a lot of guests that had some pretty difficult lives growing up.
Right.
And that's why I like to ask, like, where did you grow up? Where did baby Landini grow up to be the Landini he is now?
So mine's a little bit more complicated because, I mean, I'm gonna have to obfuscate a little bit of the details, but for the most part, I grew up in the Pennsylvania area.
Mm-hmm.
Most of my childhood was in either Philly. We lived in Reading for a while. I grew up very, very poor. My mom was struggling. She was a single mom, struggling. So we grew up, I think we went through 12 or 13 different schools between the time, but by the time I moved eventually when I was around 13 to another state. So constantly moving. Every time rent was due, we had to move to another apartment. Just sometimes we lived in the Salvation Army. Homeless for a little bit. It was a really rough as far as financially growing up. Then I ended up moving. But yeah, so where I come from is from Philadelphia. From a very, very, very poor background in the city. That's pretty much where I grew up.
When growing up, like when we're kids, our lives are our lives, right? We don't really distinguish the differences between society and what we're growing up in, because what we're growing up is normal to us.
Right.
When did you realize that what you were going through in the family, that your family and what they were struggling with was actually an issue?
I remember when I moved out of the state that I lived in to go live with in another state. And I'm sorry I'm being vague, but
that's okay. I understand.
So I remember reaching into my refrigerator, and I have one right here, and grabbing a soda out of the refrigerator and drinking it, and wondering like how blessed my life was. And the reason why I felt so blessed is because when I grew up, I have a lot of brothers and sisters, right? A lot. And because we were poor, my mom would buy one soda and all of us would have to drink that one soda. So the moment I was able to like grab my own soda and look back at it, I was like, wow, like now that I'm doing even just a little bit okay in the situation I'm in now, it must have been really, really hard because a soda is like 50 cents, right? Or it was 50 cents back in those days. So that was probably the time where I realized my upbringing was probably a little bit worse than most people would have had it. Because like you said, in the inner city, that's normal for everybody. Like people, you get jumped, there's poverty, you're struggling. Like no one's got anything really nice because people get, robbed. So probably around about 14, 15 years old, my situation got better and I was able to like reflect on it. Like, wow, it's kind of crazy how bad it was and yeah, because like you said, I didn't really realize how bad it was when I was in it because I was just a kid.
When you did realize it, did you use that as some type of driving force to become better or to do better? Now we hear a lot of the stories now of, that we hear both sides of the stories. A child grows up poor, live on the streets and stuff like that, and they stay on the streets and they continue that lifestyle. And other times they become aware of the lifestyle and they become aware that it can be better and they start striving to be better. I'm kind of wondering, like, how did you, with this realization coming to you at 14 years old, what did that have any effect on your psyche and the outlook on life and where you wanted to go?
Yeah, I have always been the type of person that I don't know there's necessarily the poverty thing had much to do with it. I think what it taught me, the area that I grew up in, is that like, especially having a large family, is like everything's a competition, right? And I think that's what drives me the most. I don't like not being the best at something I'm trying at. Like if you told me that, or if I decided that I wouldn't be, I don't know, let's say a poker player, right? I couldn't just be a poker player. I would have to be the best poker player. I would have to try. And I'm not talking about just the best in my house or the best in my street. I want to be the best at everything that I try to do. And I don't know if that's an insecurity that I have, which I haven't asked a psychologist about it, but I definitely have this extreme desire to, no matter what I do, to do it the very, very best what it is. And whether it's my job, whether it was my business, whether it was my relationships, I want to try to do the very best what it is. And I think that's just comes from the competitive nature of, because that's one thing I think it's lacked now that I'm doing well with my life. You can see other people around you. There's not a lot of competition, like, because I mean, it's the opposite actually. Like in the neighborhoods I live in now, people just come over and bring you stuff. Like, hey, I saw you don't have a security camera. Here's some security cameras for your house. There is not a lot of wanting. Like the more you have, the more people give you. But the opposite is true if you're poor, right? The less you have, the less people want anything to do with you at all. So everything has to be earned. Everything has to be you have to go get it. And then if you want something good, you have to be better than everybody else around you, because it's a legitimate competition for no matter what it is. Like the city leagues where I grew up, like the basketball leagues, they didn't give a crap if you played basketball, like, because I loved basketball. You had to be the best. So basketball is one of the things I loved. I spent all day, all night playing basketball because I wanted to be on the basketball team. So if you wanted it, you had to get it. If I wanted to get like the paper route, there's kids had a paper route. You'd have to be up in the morning. You would have to, take the most routes. I had my own paper route. I went out there and I was doing like half the city. So it's I guess that's kind of more what it is. That makes sense.
Oh, it makes sense. When did you realize that about yourself, that this want to be the best at whatever it is you put your mind to came about?
So my goal in life was to work at Microsoft.
Okay.
And that was like, I don't know why, but after I got out of the military, I met a guy that worked for Microsoft, and I was like, wow, this guy's really impressive. Now he had a degree, very smart guy, and I wanted to be like him. I just never thought that I could, because I was always like, well, man, he's really smart. I come from a bad background. I didn't finish school. I dropped out of school. How am I ever going to accomplish this? Because to be at Microsoft, unless you're like, the janitor, you have to be one of the best of the best. Microsoft takes only the best. And then when I started doing IT and I started working at it, I was like, God, like I still see these people. They're still really good. So I just sat down and I said, listen, you're either going to do it or you're going to do it. You want to be the best, you got to be the best. Like, I just did everything I could. I read, I studied, I harassed people to have them teach me. And then when I finally went to go interview with Microsoft, there was probably, 80 people in the room that were interviewing. And I was like, I got to be better than every single one of these people. And it was at that moment when I got that, I actually made it. I worked at Microsoft. I was like, you know what? This is just who I am. Like, I wasn't impressed by what had happened. I was like, yeah, this is it. This is the way I am. I want to be something. I want something. I go after it and I get it. I don't know how it would have turned out if I didn't get that job. But that's just the way it is for life. I mean, when I said that I wanted to, like when I started doing TikTok and I said, I want to grow this thing. I want to get to 1 million followers. Everybody around me who's been doing TikTok for years, like, bro, like no one gets to 1 million followers. And I did it in 7 days. Right. But for me, it wasn't like a stop and pause of like, oh, wow, look what I just did. It was like, nah, but there's people who have more. Right. And that's what drives me. Right. And it's not more to get for me. It's more like my platform. The more people that get my message, the better, like the chances of people hearing the message, like the bigger the platform. So when I decided that I wanted to do TikTok, I decided, well, how big is the message? Who is in my, who is in my niche, I guess? And how do I make sure that my platform's as big as theirs? Not because I want to beat them, but because I know that they have a platform that big, which means I can have a platform that big. So what do I got to do to get it done? That's just the way that I've always thought.
Yeah. We were talking about this has always been like who you are growing up as a kid. And I'm interested to know like what kind of kid you were, like what kind of child you were. You had a lot of brothers and sisters and siblings. You had siblings. And growing up through school, if you were to say you were this type of person, be it jock or nerd or whatever, what kind of group what would you fall into?
I was definitely a jock. I mean, it wasn't like in school. I was, I was a jock. So I always played sports. I was a boxer. I went for silver gloves when I was a kid. I was an AAU Olympic for boxing and running. I always played sports. I was a big basketball fan. I was every year an all-star. I made every team I ever tried out for. I loved sports. I loved athletics. So that was kind of like how I was. I mean, I was always trying to do something. I was always trying to keep myself busy. I didn't like downtime. I always want to have something occupying my space. Probably a lot to do with the fact that I had anxiety from a very young age. And I learned that the best way to kind of deal with that was, from that old adage, an idle mind is the devil's playground. So my mind was always busy. I was always physically active. I was always in the gym. I was always, playing a sport. So that's kind of how I was.
Were you the typical, like, what kind of person would somebody say you were? Were you that, when we hear jock, we hear like kind of like a little bit of a pompous asshole sometimes, or somebody that thinks that he's very high on himself or herself, where I have a feeling you weren't probably that kind of typical idea of a jock. But I like to ask because sometimes you'll get people to admit, yeah, I was a little bit of an asshole in high school. I was kind of like that. And other times they'll be like, no, I wasn't that bad.
I always look at it from like Michael Jordan or like David Robinson, right? David Robinson's still one of the greatest centers of all time, but you would never hear him say it, right? Or Michael Jordan, who would be very happy to tell you he was the greatest basketball player of all time. I'm probably more of a David Robinson. Is like I like competitively in my mind, I'm looking at everything as a competition. And that's just what drives me. I don't think that I ever let it turn me into an asshole, but I know that I have. I know that I do it even on my TikToks. Like if somebody comes into my live and they're being like really rude and like are pompous towards me, like it's kind of, it's hard to not say something. Like if somebody will come into my live and say like, I don't have time to talk to you, old bastard. I only talk to like big TikTok. And they're not looking at who you are. And it's a part of you wants to go like, oh, really, dude? Like I have more followers in 3 minutes than you're going to have an hour. Like that. Like you want to say those things, but I don't think it's not in my character. Like there's always those things you have to almost be dishonest to think that if you're a person like me that's constantly trying to achieve, that you're not going to say things. But I think the old adage that I learned when I was joining the military is that praising yourself or adulating yourself takes away the ability for others to do it for you. So for me, my thought was, if I do really well with everything that I do, if I bust my ass to be the best at everything I try to be, people will either adulate you or they'll congratulate you because they see that, or they won't because they hate you. But if you say that you're great, if you talk about how great you are, if you talk about what you've done, then no one's ever going to acknowledge it, because who does? Like if you walk up to somebody, hey, I'm great, they're gonna be like, you're never going to hear that back from me. Exactly. So I know that I have been a dick in my life. Who hasn't? But I think that's more of the adage. I just like to be quiet and just watch everybody and see what they're doing, and then just try to do it better.
It's always easier to allow people to put their fucking foots in their mouth, to be honest. Exactly. With you. It's a lot easier to do that. What's that term? Kill them with kindness, so to speak. And you can eat, you can smoke, you can drink on camera. It doesn't. I'm sorry. No, you're good, bro. I'm telling you.
All day.
No, you're good. So again, think Joe Rogan podcast. They freaking smoke and drink and do everything on the podcast. It's very similar to that kind of atmosphere. So don't worry about having to do anything.
Since you asked me to.
Yeah, there you go. Well, that and your face is going to be blurred out, so all they're going to see are just noodles going into a blur.
That's true.
But
yeah, and that's the other good thing is, like, one of my favorite art sayings is, it's better to be thought of a fool than to open your mouth and remove all doubt.
That's a very good saying. Yeah. Right. I find it fascinating that, you do have a sense of, and this is my perspective. You can tell you have a sense of pride of what you're doing, because what you're doing very well. Right. And there's nothing wrong with having that, because you're humble with it. We have met people that are like, oh, I'm great at what I do. I'm great at this. I'm great at that. And it's like, I can't wait until they eat that little bit of humble pie, because
you understand the difference is so nuanced though, right? Like, and the difference between what you just said, which makes me cringe even hearing it from a human being's perspective, and not being that, is that just one pause to let somebody tell you what you're doing is great, versus telling somebody that you're great. You can think it all you want, right? You can think that you're the greatest. You can think that you're whatever. But the moment you start adulating or talking about yourself, again, you give up all opportunity for somebody saying something great about you, which is why pompous people are the most unlike. And unless you're trying to date for whatever reason, women like men with confidence and they confuse arrogance with confidence. But if you're trying to be global, like if you're trying to like not isolate people, then you can't be like, yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I'm the best at what I do. Whatever. All I can say is that like everything I try to do in my life is I try to be the best at it. I don't, if I decided I'm going to do it, I'm not going to do, there's no tippy toeing in the water for me. I'm diving straight the fuck in, or I'm just not going to do it at all. It's like some of the things I've tried in my life, I get so frustrated. Like I wrestled, right? I wrestled, I was undefeated for a year. And then I wrestled one match, the guy that was half my size, and he whipped my ass, and I never wanted to wrestle again because I realized now that I'm never going to be the best, because I'm either going to have to put all my energy into wrestling, or I'm never going to be the best. Or basketball, I gave up basketball because I think I grew to be 5'11", and there's never way I was ever going to be in the NBA. So I said, I'm not going to be in the NBA, so I might as well just move on to something different. You know what I mean? That's just the way I look at it.
That's interesting that you brought that up, because my question, I had a question about that line of thinking is, what happens when you realize that you're not the best at something, or when that effort that you put into everything that you're doing, and then there's somebody else? Because look, I grew up with the adage is, remember, no matter how hard you try, you might be at the top for a while, but somebody somewhere is always trying to surpass you. And because of that, if you're even going for something, there's probably somebody that will always be bigger, better, stronger than what you're doing at right now. Well, for me, that's a driving factor.
Yeah. Right? I was gonna say, hopefully. Life would be boring if like, and again, it's people know me mostly from TikTok. That's how it is with me now. It's like when I got on here and I saw other people that I admired, I said, well, hey, he's got 100,000 followers. I can do that. Then you get to 100,000 followers. So for me, it's all about micro goals, and then reevaluating your goals, and also understanding that you're not, while I say compete, I don't necessarily mean against other people. I'm competing against my own expectations, right? I don't let anybody set my expectations for me. I have my own expectations, and I understand what's realistic for me. So whenever I decide to do something, I go into it with a full understanding of what success looks like for me. I'm a big fan of planning for success and executing whatever plan I come up with. So any arena that I step into, if I decide that I'm actually going to step into that arena, I always set micro goals. I always decide where I need to be at this time. If I'm not there at that time, I always reassess to figure out why. But it is a rough situation to get in if you're constantly not meeting any expectations. But from my part, and maybe it's just a gift that I've been given for foresight, is I pretty much know myself enough to know what I'm going to be successful at and what I'm not. For example, if I wanted to do YouTube, right? I do have a YouTube account, but I realized when I was getting into social media to do what I was going to do, that YouTube would not have worked for me, because it's long form videos. Even though I have an amazing setup, even though I have, a lot of video editing software, and I have a lot of video editing experience, the amount of dedication that it takes to be a YouTuber is something I could never, ever do. So again, the short answer is, like, you have to know yourself. You have to set micro goals. You have to plan for success and execute every plan. And you have to look at everything in life like it's like you have to look at it as a competition. Maybe somebody could disagree with me, but I think Edison said, "Show me a man who's fully satisfied, and I'll show you a failure." And that's just the way that I live my life. So,
and absolutely, because just because you hit your goal doesn't mean all goals are accomplished. Yeah. All your goals are accomplished. One set of goal can be just the stepping stone to the greater picture. Similar to what you said before, those micro goals moving towards that bigger picture, that bigger goal. So, it's very interesting having this mindset, or you having this mindset at, starting at an early young age, but then at some point you decided that the military was going to be a route for you to go. And I'm wondering, when did that become kind of the idea of where this mindset, where I want to be the greatest at everything that I try to do. Here you are, you're making the choice to try to be to go into the military.
what does that thought process look like going into something that is, it's not a selfish thing? Because when you go into the military, the person next to you is just as important as the person behind you, and you are a cog in a huge machine.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So
sure.
being able, don't get me wrong, there are chances and advances and chances to stick out and to be like the best person, become leader and everything else. But in the grand scheme of the machine that is the US military, you're just a cog, you know?
Yeah.
And you might be a little bit higher up, might be a little bit lower down, but to be the best in the military is to be like, I don't even want to say it because I don't like getting political, but technically the commander in chief, but we've had plenty of commander in chiefs that have no, military background. So it's hard for me to say it like that.
Yeah.
But I'm interested how that mindset that you have played into being in the military, because that's very hard to have that mindset and have the expectations met in the military.
Well, I think, yes, absolutely what you're saying is true. But where I was at in my life when I turned 18 was every big goal and aspiration that I had pretty much come to an end. Like I just said, I knew I wasn't going to be in the NBA. There was not enough money from the life that I had and the family that I had to go to college. And because my family life was so, again, estranged, I ended up dropping out of school. So I started working. I worked at a bunch of different things and I did the jobs. And then I came to a point where I was like, well, what's the best I'm going to be able to do with my life, right? I'm 18. College isn't an option for me. I can work at Friendly's, or I can work at Burger King, or I can work at Sonic, whatever. I can work at some place and maybe make manager. Like, what is my options? And then I didn't know that the military still took you if you didn't graduate. Like you have to be past a certain grade. Then they take what's called a GED waiver. So when I found that out, I went and talked to a recruiter and looked at my options. I took the ASVAB and I did well. So they told me, oh, this, by the way, I went to the Army recruiter. And then he was like, yeah, you're good. Like, ready to go. Like, it's going to take us about 3 months and you'll be good to go. So my thought was, okay, well, I could be in the Army. I could, I'll go, I'll reach to whatever rank I can reach. I'll make a career out of it. I'll have a good life. And then I walk outside to smoke a cigarette. And then the Marine Corps recruiter comes up to me. And the Marine Corps recruiter says, do you want to be in the Army? I was like, yeah, I'm going to go. I'm going to go in 3 months. He's like, do you want to be the best? And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, you know that the Marine Corps is the best, right? Like the Army's, he said his exact words were, hey, what do you call a person in the Army? And I said, a soldier? And he goes, yeah, what do you call somebody who was in the Marine Corps? I said, a soldier? He goes, no, we call them Marines. And I was like, oh shit, like there's a whole other thing. He's like, oh yeah, man. And so, you know how many Marines there are? He's like, oh, like 100,000. There's like 1 million Army. And, do you want to be the best? Do you want to go tell your grandkids that you were the best? You went in the military and did the hardest? I was like, well, of course I do. Not, by the way, I had not seen Full Metal Jacket. I didn't know shit about the military. Where I grew up, there was no Marines where I grew up, unless they were hiding. I had no clue about the military. So I literally, because they had an ASVAB waiver waiting for me to go, my ASVAB, a GED waiver waiting to go. So instead of going in 3 months, I did my thing. I signed up with the Marine Corps. I think 2 weeks later, I depped in. After I did my physical, I think 2 weeks after I talked to them, I depped in. So it was a crazy rush to decision based off of my thought that like, well, this is going to be tough. I had no idea how tough it was going to be, but I'm going to come out of this being the best of the best in the military, which is why I chose the Marine Corps. Now, to those listening, I know that the Marine Corps is a different kind of whatever. Everyone in the military is amazing. Just saying, I was sold by my recruiter.
Well, little did you know your recruiter said the exact right sentence that he needed to say to the individual he was saying it to. Little did he know that word, the best, literally probably just sold you. Just take the story you've been telling us about wanting to be the best in everything that you try to do or accomplish. Here's this guy having no idea, says the right thing to the right person, and there he is.
Now ask me if I would have known before if I would have gotten into the Marine Corps. And I think here's the thing, this is just a fact. All the military people can say I'm lying if they want to. Minus what we call in the Marine Corps the motos, or the guys who like love that shit, like get up in reveille and marching around the fucking barracks and like running back outside for colors and reveille so they can stand there. And so minus those dudes, the majority of the people, if you would have asked them after going through like the first 2 years of the Marine Corps, they'd have said, oh yeah, I would have went in the Air Force, or I went in the Army. I'm glad now, because the brotherhood that I have with the Marine Corps, that I made it through the Marine Corps. And I do strongly believe, other than Special Forces, and I know the Army's got some badass people, that the Marine Corps basic training and the SOI or MCT, depending on what route you took, is the hardest basic entry level training that you can get. Maybe not in the world, but definitely in America. So I'm glad that I did the most challenging. You know what I mean?
When you started this process, and again, you already alluded to it, had they told me, you probably would have made a different decision.
No, I would have in the Air Force. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But going through and realizing what it was, and fairly quickly realizing what it was that you were getting yourself into, at any point in time, did you start thinking, shit?
Yeah.
Well,
I remember the exact moment. My senior drill instructor came into the barracks. He was talking to us like they do.
Mm-hmm.
And he said these words, which, by the way, this is no joke. This is literally what I thought in my mind, because I didn't read the damn paper. When I dipped in, I wasn't paying attention. I was just getting my shots. I was just trying to get in. The second that I got into the barracks, we went through the yellow footprints. They gave us all the shots. They got us to my barracks. And the senior drill instructor sits us down and says, listen, the only way you're getting off this island is either you die or you graduate. And I was like, wait a minute, I can't just leave? Like, what if I just don't want to do this anymore? Like, because to me, I thought it was a job. I literally thought that I could quit. And I know that they said 4 years, but I thought that was like an option. I was like, well, if I want to stay for 4 years, I got 4 years. I didn't realize, like, by law, if I decided like I just didn't want to do it anymore, I was literally like contractually obligated to never do anything. Until it hit me at that moment. He said I couldn't get off that island if I wanted to. My island, I mean Paris Island, right? So that's the moment that I realized, like, oh crap, like, yeah, I'm in it for a long run now. But whatever. I mean, it's for most people, I would assume that like a 4-year commitment was difficult. I mean, I was there. I was young. I mean, I could have jumped through a pane glass window off the 10th floor and landed and probably walked away. Now I can't even fall off my chair without breaking my damn ankle. Because I'm old.
Well, you know, that crazy thing called time in life catches up to us. What was your MOS, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, so I don't want to talk about my MOS because it'll more specifically put me where I was at.
Okay.
But I was with 5th Marines. How about that?
Okay, that works.
Well,
were you, or have you, or did you ever see theater? Were you ever deployed overseas to fight?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I ask this question a lot of my veteran guests, because obviously a lot of the times when we start getting into the mental health aspect of everything, my veterans that I have on the show, a lot of the times their mental health is actually, and the problems they have with their mental health is developed from being deployed. Sometimes they have mental health issues prior to being deployed, and then being deployed just exacerbates those issues. But more often than not, usually it's a very healthy individual that goes into the military, realizes, holy shit, this is crazy, gets deployed, and then comes back with a mental health issue. And they're wondering why. How the hell did I develop this mental health issue when none of my family has mental health issues? I was perfectly fine prior to going overseas and everything else. And when you start diving into it, it's literally called neuroplasticity. And when you're exposed to a bunch of trauma or a bunch of stress, your brain literally rewires itself to survival modes. And then you walk away with this great thing called PTSD. And unfortunately, it can be a developed mental health issue. It doesn't necessarily have to be a genetic mental health issue. A lot of the times it can be, but it can be a developed mental health issue. Now, there are theories out there that are now calling it PTSI, a post-traumatic stress incident. However, if it was just an incident, it would be a lot, for me, in my opinion, it'd be a lot easier to remedy said situation. You talk to a lot of veterans, it's not so fucking easy to just get rid of PTSD, which is a disorder because your brain is now not working properly as it did before. So the reason why I'm asking if you saw theater or action, and we talked a little bit on the live about it, that you do support the whole 22 a day movement and everything else, because you admitted that you do suffer from PTSD. You admitted this on the live. I'm not sharing anything you haven't shared before. I guess my question to you would be, when did you realize, I'm not going to ask specifics because I hate that question about, what did you see? What did you do? What happened? I don't want to ask you to relive those situations and to tell a story, because I know what that means as a first responder. The last thing I want is for somebody to ask me the things that are giving me nightmares at night. But I am going to ask generally, when did you realize that you were starting to have a little bit of an issue with your mental health and it coming to PTSD?
So I have to obfuscate part of it because it tells about my personal life. But okay, we'll just put it to you this way. When my relationships with people became problematic for reasons I could not understand, that's when I realized there was a problem. I didn't realize it was PTSD until I was not able to function the way that I was able to function even while I was in the military. When I say function, I mean, like, I don't, to this day, I don't fly. And I have a very unrealistic fear of where I'm at, meaning I'm fully aware whenever I walk into a room, how many men there are, how many women there are, how big those men are. And I don't know why. I say fully aware. I mean, I'm looking for it. And it's not like this fear that I have of them being men in there. I just feel like I have to gather as much information about my surroundings as humanly possible. And it's not irrational. And it's not something that I bang myself up about doing. But I don't like sleeping on the second floor. You know what I mean? So, like, when I started realizing that all these things I had to do to make myself feel comfortable, because I would have bad anxiety and panic attacks, I realized that there was something that was going like horribly wrong. But I let it go for a very long time, to the point where it took me down a very, very dark road of anxiety and depression, and it ruined a lot of relationships because I was just unwilling to, like, kind of admit that I had a problem, because I just felt like I'll just figure it out. Or if you know what I mean, if you care about me, this is the way that
let
I
it
am.
be. Yeah.
Well, not just let it be, just like, this is who I am. Like, and that's, I think it was the biggest curse that I kept giving myself, is the whole, it's me. Right. But who I was before the military somehow disappeared, and who I was now was just this new variable that kept changing depending on my mental state. So until I decided that, like, obviously the delta between before military and after military was so drastic that there has to be something wrong, I didn't really consider doing anything about it. And I think the moment that I realized I had to get help was, this is after I worked at Microsoft. Sorry, before I worked at Microsoft, I was trying to take a job in Seattle, and it was more money than I ever was possibly ever going to make. And I had been on a flight before. It was really traumatic for me. Like, I passed out one point from the stress and anxiety. But I said, you know what, I'm going to make it. It's an 8-hour flight, and then this is going to change my life. It was the biggest thing ever for me. And I got into the airport. I got onto the plane. I freaked out, and I got up and left the plane. I didn't get the job, and it really set me back because I quit my other job, right? So I was unemployed. So it was at that point that I had realized, like, I have some issues. You know what I mean? I have to resolve whatever it is that's causing me to have this fear. Because, I mean, I'm not fearless, but I didn't have as many as the unrational fears that I had before the military, right? So it was at that moment I realized that something's not right. It's hard to put your finger on it, because you would think it's crystal clear why I feel this way, right? And I look at everything that I've been through. Not normal, but I was trained. I mean, we were trained for every situation. Like I mean, you can't ultimately train for everything, but I felt that we were well prepared, and everything that we did, it was a well organized, well oiled machine. And I guess it hits you subconsciously, however it hits you, and you have to deal with it. And that's kind of how it manifested for me. So,
at what point did you tie the experience you had in the military to what it was that you were dealing with? Now, a lot of us will start realizing, hey, something's different, something's changing. And when we start allowing the issues to become issues in our personal lives, i.e., you found out there's this fear and this stress associated with flying, and it ended up becoming a detriment to your personal life, right? You figured out, fuck, I need to do something about this. But my question more is, when were you okay with the idea that it was developed through the military and your experience within the military?
oh, I think, I mean, it's kind of hard to say, because when I know that most of the stress and anxiety and the fear that I felt was there for the most part. And I think what the military kind of does, like with anything that's highly intensive, is, or like, for example, people who hit the lottery, right? I think that whatever was in me, like, that was kind of dormant, or like from my upbringing, from being poor, from being homeless, the fear of being homeless, not knowing where you're going to be, like, I think all those things were there. I mean, I think that the experiences I went through may have been more or less depending on obviously how my childhood was. I think though, the moment I realized it was the military is because specifically the flying thing, which kind of triggered me to the point where it was like rock bottom, had something very specific to do with what happened to me in a aircraft in the military. And that's about as detailed as I could be. But
right.
So there was something very, very specific that happened to me while I was in the military in an aircraft that made me not want to get in the airplane. And I thought that I was over it. I thought that, I kind of just pushed it back and just went on. But then it got so overwhelming that I had to submit to myself that, like, like what you went through, you're not over it. Like, you think you are, you think that like you're just okay. You're just going to keep toughing it up. But I couldn't. The moment I realized I couldn't, it's the same moment. I was like, I have to admit to myself that this bothers me. Like, this is literally eating my life. Like, because that has such a hold on me. And to this day, it still has a hold on me because I still don't fly. But it by admitting that and like being okay with that, just, telling myself, you should be okay feeling this way. This was traumatic. Like, you know what I mean? I still don't get on planes, but I made it okay for myself to realize that, like, you went through that and that's why you're not doing it. And now I'm slowly trying to get back into, air travel, because driving kind of sucks.
Yeah. Driving long distances can suck at times. I love car trips though. So I'll drive 40 hours if I'm going somewhere. However, beside the point, it's interesting that you use the term hitting rock bottom, and you're using that instance as kind of like that rock bottom for you, that realization, holy shit, this is affecting my life and possible, outcomes of my life that I didn't think it would affect, right? You are getting ready to go on the plane for this job that seems like a dream job, more money than you've ever made before, and for a company that you were looking forward to, so much so that you even got a plane ticket. We're looking forward to.
No, it was worse. The company paid for it.
Oh, like, shit.
Yeah.
So like, even then, like, here you are expecting this great thing to almost happen for you, and the mental health and that mental disorder of PTSD, now it's affecting your actual life. It's not just affecting you waking up in the middle of the night, but now it's affecting your financial life. Now it's affecting your personal life. Now it's affecting just your traveling. And at that point you realized, okay, I need to start acknowledging this.
Yeah. And it's like with anything, like the cost of me ignoring it wasn't high enough for me to make any life changes.
Mm-hmm.
And the cost of that at that point became too much for me to keep ignoring. Like it's like anything, like a bank account. Like everyone's got those little stupid ass charges that they keep getting on their bank account. Now it's $2 for, okay, I won't, until like it becomes like $500. You're like, oh shit, we gotta pay attention, right? Well, that deduction from my life was like, it's all small things. Like maybe I wouldn't go on a date because it was like near the water, or maybe I just want to I don't know, maybe I didn't want to go to a certain place because it just made me uncomfortable, or I didn't want to be at a certain place because I was uncomfortable, or I was uncomfortable around people. And those are all small transactions, like things that I could be like, oh, who cares? Just go home, like whatever, it's not a big deal. Until like, yeah, like you said, like it's so big, missing people's weddings, like missing going to big events or doing things, not doing things that everybody else was doing. And my life was basically becoming I was becoming a recluse, right? Like I didn't want to do anything. It got to the point where like now I was like, oh crap, like now I'm trapped. Now I'm in a box. And I realized, and that's why the things get worse. It's almost like they tell you not to wake up somebody who's sleepwalking, or not to tell a narcissist that they're a liar. Like the whole realization of how boxed my life in just came crashing down on me. It was like, well, you look where you're at. Like you won't go to a crowd, you won't go into a restaurant, you won't go on an airplane. You are literally you're a broken person. Like and it was like not into that moment where I was like, oh shit, I have to start taking some inventory here because I'm fucked. Like my life is fucked right now, and I have to do something about it. And it was a long road. It was a very long road. A lot of uncomfortable situations and like evaluating why I was, not just from the military, but again, why the things were from before the military and after the military. So
That's kind of what I was going to jump into after that. You come to this realization that the issue that you're suffering with, and that PTSD, when did you realize that it was PTSD? Was it a self-diagnosis or something similar? Because a lot of us will be like, oh shit, this is affecting me, this is probably what it is. And then you start operating off of it's probably this, and then you start making changes to try to circumvent the situation that's happening to you. Other times people are like, I don't know why this is happening, I just know it's happening, and then they go off and look for help to try to figure it out. Like for me, it was, I don't know why this is happening. I was battling with depression and PTSD to the point where I didn't know why I was having the thoughts I was having, and why I was living my life the way I was living it, and the interactions I was having with people that, one, weren't fair to those people that I was having those interactions with, but two, it wasn't fair to me because it wasn't truly how I felt. It was just a defense mechanism based off the PTSD that I had to deal with. For you, your defense mechanism was get off the fucking plane.
Yeah.
Right. And
don't talk to me about it. That's another thing. And to this day, the one question that I won't answer, and I ask everybody in my life to not ask me, is how are you? I hate that question with a passion.
I'm not going to ask you how you are.
No, I don't know why, but like, and I know this has never been the issue. It's all post-military, but the question "How are you?" makes me stop to think how I am, and I don't like asking myself that question, and it's something that I've gotten better at. But like, yeah, it's. I don't know whether or not it was a self-diagnosis, because I was in therapy. I talked to a therapist, and they were the thing is, it didn't really matter because I wasn't ready to talk about it, and I wasn't really ready, even with a therapist, even though I thought it'd make me better. I didn't want to admit it to myself, even in front of somebody who was there to help me. They gathered based off just the things that I told them that I had PTSD, assumably, but I don't know. It's like, I don't know that there are symptoms and signs of PTSD, but in the broader scope of it, there wasn't really much of anything else it could have been. I mean, it could just be stress, depression, anxiety. I don't have bipolar, or I don't know how you test for bipolar. So the conclusion that it was stress, PTSD brought on from my military experience.
What was your process? What did that look like? Because you had this realization that something needed to be done, and you needed to do something about it. What did that process look like for you?
Well, again, there was events that happened in my life that happened slightly after the incident where I was getting on the plane that required me to take a large inventory of where I wanted my life to be. And I needed my life to be good for those events. I know that's vague, but so
You keep saying, I know that's vague. I know that's vague.
yeah.
It's okay, man. You don't have. So I do like to pray, and I apologize if.
No. I'm not. You can pry all you want. If this is a private conversation between me and you, I would tell you all the details. But the thing is, because of my content, I obviously don't want to give up too many details. But
right, and I get that, and I respect that. But the reason why I like to pray and get as much as I can out of you respectfully, of course, as much as I can out of you respectfully, is because I want you to share as much as you can that would somebody listening would be able to hear this and be like, I can relate.
Yeah, definitely.
And so I can do these things that he's done because I can relate I can relate to this story. And because I can relate to this story and I can see the success he's having now in managing what it is that he went through.
Yeah.
The more details that are associated with that, the more it allows our listeners or somebody looking for that help to be like, I am not alone.
Yeah, no, definitely. Because I went through that too. And that's, and even in the planes, oddly enough, whenever I was on an airplane, the only thing that would keep me from like literally flipping the fuck out would be looking at other people on the plane and being like, wait a minute, they're not flipping out. Like if we'd hit turbulence, wait a minute, they're not flipping out. Like obviously we're going to be okay. Or if I was in a restaurant and I'd see people not freaking out for every person that walked into the restaurant, I was like, wait a minute, that person's smaller than me and they're not freaking out. Like what's going on? So, I mean, I'm sorry, the original question was what again? I lost my track.
What was the process and what did that look like for you when you started figuring out that you did need to get that help?
I had a life-changing event that happened to me, and essentially what the process looked like was I had to make myself important enough to get myself better, because there's things that happened in my life that required me to be the best possible human being I could be. Additional people came into my life, just put it that way. So in order for me to do that, I had to realize that there was a lot of problems. So the process looked like getting therapy, getting help, and then also stop surrounding myself with people that would just agree with me. Like stop putting people in my life that didn't care enough about me to tell me that what I was doing wasn't okay. Meaning, like some of the things that I was doing, like as far as like my behaviors, like just my actual day-to-day routines, were getting so far-fetched that like somebody should have said, yo, bro, like, why won't you go to hang out with 3 people in a room? Why don't you come hang out with us? Or, hey, like your cousin's getting married. It's like a 2-hour flight. Like, or why won't you go? Or why don't you just drive there? Like, so still people started calling me out, and putting people in my life that would actually check on me or care enough about me to ask the questions why. That was a big change, right? That was part of the process of finding people that cared about me. Like, because there are a lot of times in life, people will want to pacify you so that they can keep the peace. But in a situation like mine, like the peace was made by just doing things that were hurting me, hurting my growth, hurting my relationships. And nobody was there saying, hey, bro, like what you're doing is fucked up. Stop. Like, hey, like this is not okay. This is not normal. Like you need to figure this whole thing out, and like you need to get help. So the process started that way, is, taking a real inventory of myself and stop making excuses for myself for the things. Stop blaming other people for being uncomfortable with the way that I was acting, like as far as just my general way that I was living my life. So that, and then just intensive therapy. For me, I'm a big fan of prayer. So for me, that like just taking that time to meditate, just kind of like not always trying to solve the problems myself, and only really trying to focus on the things that I can control, and like actually believing that the things that are out of my control, I can't control. And then just, I have so many things at that point in my life that I could control. Why not just be good at that? Why not just be the best you can at the things you have some control over, and worry less about the things that you don't? And again, so therapy, prayer, changing the people in my life. And it's been over 10 years now since I've been kind of like on the track towards better mental health. Still not perfect. Still working through some things, but I'm so much better. I go places, I go to events, I talk to people. I don't even know that I'm in a restaurant half the time. So really, really big progress, but that's kind of the process I went through.
There's still work to do.
Oh yeah, every day.
Right.
Yeah.
Every day. And it's interesting that you mentioned getting people in your life that weren't afraid to put your true self in your face.
Yeah.
Right. Because a lot of the times when we're going through certain things and we're dealing with certain aspects of our mental health, we just chalk it up as that's just who we are. And just who we are at that point in time is sometimes not very fucking healthy.
No.
And it's very, very hard and difficult for the people in our lives that love us to put who we truly are in our face. And when they do, or when we do find individuals that are capable of doing that, it takes us seeing it in their lens as well.
Because we quickly want to reject them. It's like,
exactly.
Like, why would I be with you if there's people who will just, ignore all these fucked up things I'm doing and like make it easy for me? Like that's what I'm saying. That's the point. Like when you realize that you're letting people go out of your life that were great because you just didn't want them to see what you really were. Like, and I know that's a rough way to get there because not everybody has those people in life, which is probably why, fortunately, we lose 22 veterans a day. But it's something's going to happen. I don't know of anybody who's. Now this is why okay. So, not to change subjects, but the reason why I support the 22 a day programs as much as I do is because that gap between the military, like you talked about, and the point where I hit rock bottom is that crucial time where these veterans are taking their lives, right? And if I could have done anything at that time to keep myself occupied, I would have done it. Healthy, not healthy. Luckily, I didn't. I did drink. I actually didn't start drinking until much later in life. But luckily, I didn't, because then I probably would have became an alcoholic or whatever the issues I could have brought onto myself. But I didn't have anybody, because all my veteran friends were out in California still, or they're still enlisted. All these 22 a day programs that are out there, as much as I can, I support them, because that chasm between leaving and rock bottom is such a critical time. And there are people out there that care. There are people out there that want to help, but it's, bridging that gap between the people that want to help and the people that need to help. It's not as easy as people think it is, because no one's talking about it. No one, this is why the 22 tackle 22 thing is important. Mm-hmm. I don't know a dude alive that doesn't love fishing. I just don't. Be real. Other than strip clubs, I don't know what more universally bonds us as men.
Fishing and hunting. That there isn't really a whole lot else.
So I'm saying, that's such a beautiful marriage of things, because I've never met somebody who doesn't like fishing. I just don't. It's naturally in us, and women too. I know women that love to fish. I'm not trying to be sexist, but I'm saying that's such a brilliant idea to try to find things to keep these men and keep these veterans, keeping their eyes out for something different. So yeah, sorry, I deviated off, but that's kind of the answer to your question.
That's all right. I'm gonna ask something really, really personal, and you can tell me to fuck off or not. But obviously, we're on the subject of mental health, and I like to get the stories from my guests and want them to be as open and honest as they're capable of. It's not right or wrong if you can answer it or not. But you were talking about the 22 a day, and you were talking about that very, very thin line between rock bottom and hope. We'll just call it what that is, right? There's a thin line between rock bottom and hope, and they're walking that line. And sometimes they fall to the other side, and unfortunately, we lose them. Did you, or have you ever had suicidal ideations, suicidal thoughts, or suicidal attempts?
Oh, every day. Well, attempts, no. But especially towards the end, I was so down on myself that, the thought was at that point in time is, what am I going to do now? Where am I going to go? The best way, especially at its worst, right? You're, like I said, when I describe you being in the box, you literally put yourself into this situation, and you do it to yourself, right? Where there is no escape, right? And your mentality, your your ability to live what you believe to be a normal life or a happy life or just happiness in itself is unachievable. So where there's nothing else, and you're at the position where like you know that you're hurting people that you care about, and that you know that everybody around you would be better off if you just weren't there. It's a dark, dark time. And again, most people don't hit rock bottom until well past that, or they find substances, or they find something to occupy that part of their head, which is generally where most people go when they're in those type of really dark, depressed PTSD states. So for me, it got really, really bad towards the time before I decided that I needed to help myself. And it was like every day I was deciding whether or not I wanted to keep going. And then again, because there are things that changed in my life, there was a very specific incident that changed in my life where that was no longer going to be an option at all, which made it worse, right? So now I knew that I couldn't do it. And it's like, see what I'm saying? Like, it sounds weird to say, but like, because I knew at that point in my life I couldn't hurt myself, I couldn't do anything because I had other things I had to worry about, it just made my anxiety worse, because I was like, well, now there's no out, right? Because you can't leave the world with these situations. So, and I don't, and so the veterans that have people in their lives that, like, for example, if they have a sick or dying mom, right? And they know that they're the only person taking care of them. That's usually the only thing that's like they're holding on to. A lot of people, they'll get out, like they'll have kids, they'll have wives, they know that they have to stay. And that usually ends up like pushing these people to the edge, because that stress and pressure of knowing that you're not okay, and that added with the fact that you're not getting any help, and combine that with the fact that there are people who need you to be mentally healthy to provide, produce, like just to perform. It does get to the point where it's you either snap or break, or you just end up just taking your own life. Luckily for me, that incident was dramatic enough for me to say, okay, do something now, because either you're gonna or you're not. And ironically, getting on that plane, in my head, I was saying to myself, okay, my fear is I'm going to die in this plane. I'm going to get on this plane because I'm ready to go. I'm done. I don't want to live anymore. You know what? Fuck it. Let's get on this plane. I believe this plane's going to crash. I believe I'm going to die. Fuck it. I'm getting on this plane. And then I got on the plane and I realized, holy shit, I don't want to die. Like, I got too much to live for. So why am I on this plane? Why am I worried about this? Like, what's going on with my life? Like, all that shit kind of came to a head. So ironically, the fact that I was just decided that that's how I was going to die, realized that I was okay with it, is probably what scared me the most, right?
It sounds like you just borderlined on the ideations, right? The idea of suicide.
Yeah, but I never, to answer your other question, have I ever like took actual actions to do it? No, I mean, part of, like, I'm very religious, like I said, like I grew up very, like, in a Pentecostal household.
Okay.
I knew that it was something that I wanted to do, but I knew there was something that I could never have done, but it was something that's constantly on my mind.
And that's the thing. And the reason why I bring that up is because there is very, very, very specific differences between ideations, attempts, and ideas. Now, thinking about how the world would be without you in it is just ideas, right? That's a suicidal idea. It's not necessarily an ideation or an actual plan of action. Now, suicidal ideations are actually thinking, how would I do this? You know, and start kind of almost planning it. And this is how I would do it, or I want to do it this way, or, you know, those are suicidal ideations. Actually,
I don't think I ever planned on it. I don't think I ever actually planned to like take anything or do anything to hurt myself.
All right, and I had this conversation with Novocaine, and she was just like, I'm suicidal all the time. And I'm like, are you really though? And she goes, well, if like a bus came and hit me, I wouldn't, like, you know, oh well. And I'm like, okay, so you're more okay with the idea of dying than you are of actual suicide. Suicide in itself is taking your own life and planning to take your own life. So there's differences here, and we have to be very specific with these, because I don't want somebody to think that because they think that the world will be better without them, but they're not actually planning anything or anything like that, that they're having suicidal ideations. Completely difference between suicidal ideas, suicidal ideations, which is like planning, thinking about how you would do it, looking at that gun and wondering what if, like, those are suicidal ideations. And of course, suicidal actions are actually taking these steps to complete a suicide.
those are very, very three different ideas. And having those ideas and being aware of them can be very beneficial for you when you start looking for help. Because if you go to somebody and you tell them, yes, I'm having suicidal ideations, that therapist is going to be like, so you've been planning? And you're going to be like, no, I haven't actually planned anything. I just don't care if I die. No, well, those are suicidal ideas. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I assume some of them can include being put away, or someone could be like intensive therapy.
right, exactly. So you have to be very careful how you define the idea that you're having. So for me, it sounds like you are more of suicidal ideas, right? What if I go, I go. If I put myself in the situation and it happens, oh well. You know, you're not doing
the fact that you wanted to die, like you just didn't want to live anymore, like, and the fact that like you were hoping that it happened. As far as like planning it or doing, I don't think that would ever. I don't think. Oh, I don't know. I mean, hopefully God never puts me in a situation worse than what I was in. But no, just not wanting to live more of anything.
Right.
Just ideas.
So like for me, I was at a point where I saw the progression of my suicidal idea turning into suicidal ideations and then into a potential attempt. For me, it started off with, I just don't want to be here. I don't want to be dead, but I just don't want to be around. I don't want to be here. Right. I just want to be gone because I'm causing so many issues. It's hard for me to deal with these things. I don't want to die. I just want to disappear. And it's a very hard concept for people to realize what that means. They're like, well, if you just want to disappear, but you don't want to die, what does that mean? And I'm like, I don't know. Yeah, throw me out in the middle of the woods and nobody come looking for me. That's kind of similar to that.
Drives me, it bothers me at the same time, is knowing that even people listening to our voice right now are in a headspace that's so dark that like they're literally like planning like how they're going to do it, where they're going to do it. Like it's something that I can understand, but it's something that like it disturbs me to no end that like one phone call from somebody, one kind word, or maybe even just reaching out to somebody and just telling them, hey, you know, like I need you. You know what I mean? Like, and again, that's part of my thing is like what happened changed. I realized somebody needed me more than I needed myself. And that's why I try to take as much. We have so many veterans on TikTok, and they all reach out and they just, you know, like one of our veterans, USMC guy, I can't remember his full name, but he actually shot himself in the head because of his PTSD, and he made it. And that's what keeps me, I'm not worried, but it keeps me thinking about how we can get better, how we could do more, because there's so many of them out there like right now, and you might even know it. Like they just need somebody. They need somebody to talk to. They need somebody to care about them. They need an event. They need something.
I think for me and going through it, and I would say something. So I just think sometimes we just need somebody to understand where we're coming from.
Yeah.
Just hear what's going on up here, understand it, know that I'm there. I want somebody to know that I'm there. That way I don't feel like I am in this state alone.
Yeah.
Right. At least somebody knows where I'm at. Right. Here's my beacon, so to speak. Now you know where I'm at, and you don't judge me for it, and you kind of understand. For a lot of us, especially military veterans and you know first responders that have the machismo aspect of, hey, I am a Marine, I am a soldier, I am a navalman, and I am an Air Force, I'm a firefighter, I'm a cop, I'm EMT. Like I should know better. I should be this person that can just be okay with what the shit that I've been through. And the weird thing is, you know, we're just normal human beings that decided to do an abnormal job.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And being that normal human being doing the abnormal job doesn't mean, even though you're aware of the possibility of going through those abnormal circumstances or traumas, doesn't mean that you are going to handle them any differently than the next average human being.
Yeah.
And it gets lost on people.
I think at that point that people are probably, I mean, I just like life becomes such a dark and haze. Like it gets to the point where like simple things like just communicating or even talking to people and that's the point where it's like, you know, there's no return. And then which is why like I have a list of people that I call veterans that I call mostly ones that I met after I got out, because I've been out for a long time. So if they, luckily, hopefully, if they have not hurt themselves by now, most of them hopefully won't. But I still keep in contact because through my work, I still have gone back. I've supported 8th Com and 9th Com, some of their deployments through my work, and seen some of those kids and talking to them. But that's kind of the thing, is like you can't, like, reaching out is pretty much the only way to help some of these people, because a lot of them won't reach out. You know what I mean? So proactively reaching out to these veterans, and the 22 a day, the things like with the push-ups and the things that people do, that people think that's just stupid ass videos of people doing things. No, it's like, when you're in those situations, you want to know that people are thinking about you. You want to know that people care about you. Like, those are the differences between life and death. So charities like yours and charities like Tackle 22 Fishing, and all those charities, they serve a really good purpose. You know what I mean? And it weighs heavily on me. It weighs heavily on me because of being a veteran, and because I've lost so many veterans, right? So it's why I'm always happy to do everything you can. So.
And I want to say thank you for using your platform and using your reach and doing what you're doing. You know, a lot of the times we see these social media creators, and we'll go into something a little bit lighter now. But before I do, I want to say thank you for exposing and letting us know a little bit about your past and how you dealt with yours, and how you continue to deal with what you go through. You know, you said you went through therapy and you figured out, you know, there's things in our lives that happen that make us realize that life is bigger than what we are sometimes. However, to be the best version of ourselves for the people that we are caring for, the people that rely on us, it takes us being the best versions of ourselves.
Yeah.
And if we're not that best version of ourselves, we are not giving the person or people that rely on us that 100% that we think we're giving them. If you go and help somebody, and great, you feel great for helping them, but then you go home and you're beating yourself up again, did you really give them everything that you could have?
No, it's like that old thing they say on the airplanes, like, put the oxygen on yourself before you help other people. And the people just listen to that, like, why does that make a damn difference? Because if your ass is passed out, you can't put the oxygen mask on somebody else. You got to put it on yourself. Make sure your ass is breathing, then start helping the other people.
Exactly. And so, like I said, before we move on to what you're doing now, and we did talk about it a little bit at the beginning of us talking about what you're doing, but before we move forward, I do want to say thank you for opening up as much as you could. I completely understand, because of your platform and because of what you're doing, you a little bit reserved on some of the things that you can share. However, I'm still very thankful that Landini, the anonymous Landini, was able to share what he did. And I really, truly appreciate and thank you for that.
Well, just a point of contention, not that it matters, but there is no Landini. That person doesn't exist. Like, the name, the Great Londini, is just the name of the movement. The name that I gave myself is Leo, but people call me the Great Londini. And I guess for social media purposes, if I'm ever going to get verified, because they need a public figure, I am the Great Londini.
Landini, yeah. Yes. And you are. And it's good that you explained that the Great Londini is the movement and not necessarily the person. But I now then I can refer to you as Leo. I just want to say thank you.
Call me whatever you want. You're welcome.
We did talk about this a little bit at the beginning of the episode, the beginning of us recording, about what you're doing with your platform and kind of how you got onto it. But what I'm curious about is, one, what even drove you to get onto social media in the first place? And you look like you're mid to late 30s, maybe early 40s, and
old.
Yeah, mid to late 30s, early 40s. I'm in my mid 30s. Yeah. And here we are on this social media platform that was developed for and kids, basically run by teenagers dancing to songs and doing all this, what I thought at the time was complete nonsense.
Me too. Yeah.
And all of a sudden, here we are on these platforms, and our messages are starting to get out, and we're getting a bunch of support for what we're trying to do. What was it that even got you to think about jumping onto social media and start doing this?
My story is, so there's the condensed version, which is what I'll give you. But the short version of the longer story is I had a TikTok account with my name, by the way, for a while. And I was just doing silly shit, created a bunch of videos, didn't do that much. It was just whatever. And I kind of just stopped it. And the reason why I did it originally is because somebody in my life was really loved it. And like, they loved doing the little viral TikTok dances. So I jump in and do a couple of videos with them. And I had to create an account to help them do the videos. I was like, oh, let me just try to do my own. Then I just kind of dropped it. Wasn't really that interested in it. And then my friend, a really good friend of mine, had a son who committed suicide. He was 14. He had autism, and he was being harassed, as we found out later, by people on social media. He gave me his phone. We looked into the messages he was getting. And while I can't obviously correlate, because obviously there was not a daily journal of the why or what was going on to lead up to the point where he took his life, it certainly didn't help the things that this kid was getting, right? So he asked me, my friend, if I could figure out who was doing this, like why, who, and like why. Like I remember him saying, "What kind of person would do this?" Which is something I say in my videos. What kind of person would do this? What, like, where were the parents, right? So when I saw the messages and I saw there was a group of kids that were specifically harassing him, but using his name, because trolls don't know your name, right? Because there's no technologically advanced troll. I don't give a shit what these people tell you. They say they get your IP address, whatever. It's all a scam. Okay, these kids are literally just scared little kids in a closet or in their mom's basement, trying to get a rise out of you because that's how they get their jollies. It's just human nature, right? These kids specifically were saying this young man's name. We thought that was odd, and I was like, okay, well, let me see what I can find out. Now, out of I can't remember the exact number of how many people we found. Some of them, it was really easy because their name was in their profile or part of their name. Some of them was a little more difficult because they had no name associated with it. It was some stupid username. So I started off my first account, the first Great Londini account, just to track down who those people were and turn those people in to the school, because the amount of harassment and just vitriol that was coming out of this disgusting things they were saying. Well, obviously the worry is that they're doing this to other people, right? And also the parent of the friend who lost his kid, he wanted some closure. He wanted to speak to the parents of the kids that were saying these things, because ultimately the kid took his life. Now, going back, if I could do it again, I would not have given him that information, because it could have gone south. He could have went fucking postal or crazy, but I did. So that happened. And while I was on there and I was looking around for these videos, I saw just the most disgusting shit. So I went to the site of TikTok I didn't know existed. I went to the site of Instagram, YouTube I didn't know existed, which is just this dark and disgusting area full of kids that think there's a thing called dark humor, where they can use the excuse to be racist and homophobic to put out jokes publicly. And then also there's actual pedophiles and actual racists on the app. So I said to myself, well, let me just put out a little beacon here to let these assholes know, like, you guys don't think that you're doing this anonymously. Like this is the year, I think it was like 2020 at the point. If somebody wanted to figure out who you were, for the most part, within a couple of clicks, it's not that damn hard. You guys aren't that smart. Like, you're following your friends or you're following yourself, because this is like they call it your meme account. All you gotta do is track that down. Go look at your 360 account. Go look at your Instagram. You're going to put your name somewhere, or you're going to make a video where your city, the state you live in, maybe you're going to have something on the wall that has your name. A little bit of looking could find out who you are. Nothing illegal, just with what you could find in the videos, right? So that's what I did. And I did, again, the first account had like 1.7 million followers in less than 2 weeks or something crazy like that. Just calling it out, just saying, you're not anonymous, bro. Like, here's your profile picture. And by the way, I'm sending the information to your parents. And then at that time, I was putting more detail out than I would have wanted to now. Not their name, not their address, but like their principal's name, right? Or things that let them know, oh shit, this dude's not fucking around. He's doing it. And then, of course, the whole April 24th National Rape Day thing happened. And there was this kid named Kevin Harp, I think his name was. Mm-hmm. And I tracked him down. from he was standing in his backyard. There was a light pole and like this very, very unique building, and I did a reverse image search, I think off Google Maps. I was able to track it down to the area he lived in. Found out his mom or the person he lived with was the municipal judge in Oklahoma City. So that kind of got big exposure. And then just started trying to help people. We took down around 4,000 pedophile accounts by literally running scripts against TikTok, looking for specific naming convention they were using their accounts. And I gave TikTok that list. TikTok never responded back, but we did notice that all those accounts, when I ran the script about a month later, those accounts were all gone. So helping TikTok get rid of pedophiles, calling out racism, calling out homophobia, letting people on social media know that you're not, if somebody wants to know who you are, it doesn't have to go to the police, right? You're and a lot of these times, because it's not all crimes, like just being a horrendous person isn't a crime, but some of these people, because they have the right to protect themselves over harassment, if they had your information, they could get what's called a protective order. They can get a whole bunch of things to stop you, not for just like the silly little one-off troll comment, "Oh, you're fat." Nobody gives a shit about that.
Right.
The stuff that I'm going after is continuous, ongoing harassment, where like not just one person, but they get a whole group to just harass. If I'm doing a video about something, it's because it's harassment. I don't give a shit about bullying comments. I just don't.
Well, I guess my question, I guess my curiosity is, you started off as doing this for a friend, and what was it about doing this for your friend that had you want to continue doing this for other people? Because a lot of the times, like when we do something for a friend, we do something for a friend, and that's it. We did it for our friend. Job's done. I'm good. We took care of the situation. We took care of the issue. And that's it. I'm done doing what I did. But you decided to continue doing this for other people, for people that weren't as close as your friend was.
Yeah, and then it goes back into my neuroses at this point. So now when I saw that this was happening, and I realized that, even though I realized in my mind that I cannot stop every single troll,
mm-hmm.
Whenever I would see some of these kids respond, or whenever, you would contact their parents and they would say things like, "You can't take us all down," then they would attempt to attack me. They don't know who I am. I think it was partially my competitive nature to want to get every single one of them off social media. And the other part of it was to do with the responses I was getting. When the response I got from my friend, to me, I feel that, like, even though his losing a child, I don't think anybody could ever come off that unscathed, obviously. It really gave him something that I felt that a lot of parents needed, right? Which is, even though their kid may have unfortunately lost their life, part after your healing process is you start looking out, right? Like, what did my kid just die for nothing? Like, was part of the reason why he took his life is because people could not stop harassing him. And if you go back and watch one of the videos that I did, I think it was about a month ago, there was a young lady who was 14 years old, and she wrote a letter to her mom, or sorry, her sister. No, it was her mom. And in the video, she said, "I know what killed me. It was bullying that killed me. And don't stop until you get justice," right? Like, don't stop. Because what she was saying in her suicide letter, which I found on the internet, is that you couldn't have done anything. Like, you're a good mom. But like, the things that are being done to me, like the way that these people were harassing me, of course, probably throw in some mental illness, because,
Right.
most people you would hope would address it differently. She couldn't take it anymore. But as far as like the jump from just quitting that account and doing it, it had a lot to do with what I saw while I was looking through the content, and my desire to let those, like, there's like this really almost like dark passion of mine to let every single person in the world know that the internet will be like the real world. as far as your ability to hurt people. If you walk up to somebody in the streets, a woman, a child, a person with a disability like my friend, or name anybody, and you hurt them, decent people all over the world are going to pummel your ass, right? They're going to do something to protect that person, because just because whatever you're going through does not give you the right to hurt innocent people, especially when their intended goal was to be creative and positive, right, with content. Decent people all over the world, they saw somebody being harassed, hurt, especially with people with disabilities, single mothers, mothers with kids with disabilities, parents with kids with disabilities. If they saw that happening in real life, they would do something. My thesis is that all I'm doing is what a normal, decent human being would do if they saw somebody harassing or attacking a person at the mall. That's my theory. The problem is that because it's not the mall, these people think they're doing something publicly behind the veil of anonymity. So my goal, my passion was to tell these people, let them know, I've been doing information security for a long time. It's pretty much the best thing I do. And everything I do, like I told you from the beginning, is something I want to do the best at. I can promise you none of you are anonymous. And not just from the fact, because I can't find everybody. It's not possible. I'm not hacking. I'm not doing anything illegal. But if the police want to know who you are, all they got to do is make a request. One little request in the court, and your internet service provider will give you up with no questions asked. Not a VPN, you can decrypt your phone, you can encrypt your phone, do whatever you want to do. They'll know who you are. And that chasm between that fact and the lawlessness of what's going on the internet, somewhere in between them is me. Between the fact that the police could already figure out who these people were, and between the fact that TikTok knows who they are, and them not doing anything about it while people are taking their life to the tune of 8,000 a year now, and according to the last CD state statistic, 10 to 24-year-olds, 8,000 took their life. It's not all bullying, but that number is crazy.
Right.
So in the between, that is me. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to say, despite all taking down the pedophiles, racists, all that stuff, besides that, is that you are not anonymous. If I wanted to find out who you were, bad enough, truly bad enough, it would not be hard to do. When I say to the point where, like, if I go into your friend list and I pay somebody $100, which I've done, to find out who you are, your friend's going to give you up like that, right? So before we don't care that you're over there saying that LeBron's better than Jordan, or you look fat in that dress. But when you're over there sending people like swatting people, doxing them, like they're doing to that poor Indian girl, I can't remember her name, Padma, sending food to meat to her yoga studio, harassing her, getting her kicked out of her studio, making false claims and stuff to ruin her life. Like, these people are literally trying to ruin these people's life for a joke, right? There has to be something in the middle until they bridge that gap between where they actually create laws that protect people, like we have in the real world versus the virtual world. Until those two worlds collide, there has to be somebody in the middle saying, listen, you're not going to get away with this if it's possible. And it started off with being me and planting that seed saying, I'm doing this. I'm gonna put this information out there. And then all these people started coming in like, hey, listen, I'm being harassed. My friend just got groomed. They said her 9-year-old said she got duped into sending nude pictures by some guy that said she hacked her Roblox account, and he forced her to send him nude pictures to get the craziest, most disgusting shit you've ever heard in your life. And more people started joining. He's like, hey man, I want to be a part of this. I'm seeing what's going on. How can I help? Teach me how to just do basic searching so I can figure out who these people are, so we can inform the police, so we can inform the schools, so we can inform the parents to do your fucking job, which is to watch your kids, stop them from doing these things. Because the difference between the public arena and the social contract that every person has about what you don't do in public, we know we don't walk up to somebody and say something fucking stupid like all trans people should die.
Well, yeah, because the repercussions are immediate.
You get your ass beat.
Yeah.
But the chasm again between virtual world and the physical world is what's in between. It's me and you. Right. If we sit around and let this shit happen and just watch it and just look at a video and just go, oh, that's sad, then we're all just innocent bystanders watching people get brutalized. And by saying brutalized, like we both know, depending on where you're at in your mental health, that could be the last thing somebody hears, right?
Correct.
So if that's possible, right? Then why would you try to stop that, right? I get it. I get humor. I'm a Marine. I've said some of those fucked up things you've ever heard. And I'm pretty sure I say it on a regular basis, privately to my friends.
Right. There's a time and a place for you said this earlier, the excuse of dark humor, right? Yes, dark humor is a thing.
Yeah.
It is a thing.
Privately.
However, you have to put it into context when using dark humor, right? Or when using dirty humor and stuff like there's context of when you should be able and or smart enough to use it.
Yeah, Chris Rock's one of the funniest people that ever lived. And if I spend money to go to a Chris Rock concert, I want that dude to say the most fucked up shit ever. I went there to hear him say that.
Exactly.
Nobody's flipping through their FYP hoping that you're going to make fun of their sexual orientation. No one's flipping through the FYP for you to make fun of their child with Down syndrome. Nobody signed up for TikTok for you to be a fucking cankerous asshole making jokes about sexually assaulting a child with Down syndrome. That's not what we're on here for. So yeah, there is a place. It's not the fucking internet. It's not social media.
And huge hashtag newsflash, everybody. What you put on the internet is forever, whether you think you deleted it or not. Just a heads up.
Little fun game for everyone listening. If you remember your old AOL account or your old MySpace account, go to the Wayback Machine. Just type in Wayback Machine. It will literally take you back to the very, very, very beginning of the internet. Internet's archive. Never goes anywhere.
Nope.
It's on there forever. Anyway, so what I'm saying is we as people, the same as, because by the way, social contracts didn't always exist.
No, they did not.
For the most part.
No,
meaning there was a time in our history where being racist and disgusting towards human beings was pretty much the norm, right? Now, there were people that were good people, just like there are good people now. But there were people that were literally kicking people off because where they were sitting on a bus or because they drank out of the wrong water fountain. We've had shitty people throughout the world. But what happened is good people stepped up and they said, hey, man, why the fuck do you care where that person sits? Hey, why do you care the color of their skin? What does it have to do with where they eat? Like, why are we even worrying about that? The internet is that last bastion, right? People on the internet are treating it like it's almost like an assault. You have to take this. And this is the last thing I'm going to say because I could talk about it all day.
No. I love your passion about this, man. I really do.
What I'm saying is, imagine, I want you to think about 1990, okay? Mm-hmm. Imagine if I told you that there was a show on right now with a 13-year-old girl who's wearing lingerie, and spitting in the mouth of another girl while she talks about her or sings about Cardi B's wet ass pussy or dances to Cardi B's wet ass pussy.
Yeah, that would never happen in the 90s.
Why?
Because it was socially unacceptable.
Now, if I saw that and I said that girl is being a sexualizing herself at 13 for reasons I don't understand, the problem is now that in itself is you in the eyes of people who are allowing this stuff to happen, is you're sexualizing that child, not her sexualizing herself. See, in their eyes, it doesn't become sexual until I view it and consider it to be sexual. So the problem isn't the fact that there's a 13-year-old in her underwear having another girl spit in her mouth and dancing in her underwear to a song about someone's wet pussy. The problem is that I saw it because you put it on my FYP and I said, whoa, that's inappropriate. And it's inappropriate because the way I saw it, not that it was inappropriate. That is legitimately the mindset of these fucking people. Like if a guy stood on the corner holding up a fucking hot dog, wearing a hot dog costume, mustard in one hand, dancing, singing, I want to sell you a hot dog. And I walked up to you and I said, yo, bro, I see you got hot dogs. Can I have one? You motherfucker. You thought that I was here selling hot dogs, didn't you? Fuck
right.
You. I'm
exactly.
just dancing.
It's easy to trap people with that. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people out there that try to do that for either views or whatever else. But then that goes to the whole idea of social perception, right? And what is considered okay and not okay to show as a socially acceptable thing. What's happening and what I've noticed is that the idea of social perception now no longer has a norm. And the crazier you are, if you perceive it one way, great. If you perceive it another way, you're wrong. And perception now, you can no longer have an opinion of a perception that's not popular. It's not right or wrong,
It's not right or wrong. It's just unpopular or popular now. And there is no right or wrong anymore. It's just what's popular and what's not popular. And if you're on the unpopular side, good fucking luck dealing with the court of public opinion, because the court of public opinion is going to ream your ass.
Yeah. And it's one of my favorite sayings is that, it's not a saying. One of my favorite opinions is the only thing that's taboo left in society, the only taboo left is morality. You can literally be anything you want. You can wake up tomorrow and say, I'm a fucking Apache helicopter. And you know what? God bless you. You're an Apache helicopter. Go about your day. But if I tell you that I think that it's immoral for a 13-year-old to sexualize yourself, I'm the problem. And the reason why I say this is because I'm not just talking about like general assholes saying this. Like I literally have a girl, and I won't say her name because she's actually a news anchor, tell me directly that the problem isn't that 13-year-olds on the streets dancing with, like, so this particular video is two men grinding on a 13-year-old in Daisy Duke shorts and a cut-off shirt in the middle of the street. The problem is that I saw that to be sexual. And I looked at her and I said, listen, I'm assuming you are an educated person, but let's throw that out of the window because the education system is just garbage, right? Look at that right there. Just look at what you're seeing and tell me that what that 13-year-old girl is doing in your mind is okay. She said, yeah, she's just being a sexual person. I said, that's pedophilia. What you just said is pedophilia. You just said that it's okay, keyword sex, for a girl to sexualize herself in public. Now, she's not nude, but she's dancing to a song about a guy fucking her while two guys grinding. You're okay with it. That's pedophilia. Like, that's the definition of pedophilia. Like, you have a fetish towards No, it's just a girl. She's being sexual. Let her be herself. It's like, no. You don't understand what I'm saying. So it's either wrong for kids to sexualize themselves or it's not. Should kids sexualize themselves? Well, it's not that what she said. She said, it's not that simplistic. It's not that binary. I said, no, but it is. You see, because just like murder, right? I either murdered you or I didn't, right? Did I murder you? Are you dead or are you alive, right? That kid, poor girl, for whatever reason, is being grinded on. She can't unlive that. Whoever person decided to let that thing happen to her child, that child, that's her life now. Forever and forever for the rest of her life. Whenever somebody comes back, Charlie D'Amelio, the girl that I just mentioned, forever for the rest of their life, they are the girls that at very young ages were wearing bikinis, nowhere near a pool, dancing to songs about sex at the ages of like 15 years old. What does that set them up for? And this is what I'm saying. This is why it gets me so upset, is because it's not just the bullying, it's not just the trolling. Everybody thinks that if it happens on the internet, it doesn't happen. But yet, more people are dying as a result of things from the internet than anything else. There's not 8,000 kids dying from the age of 10 to 24 in a car. They're dying because of the shit that's happening online. They just did a statistic at MIT saying that kids, between the teenage kids, have access to their phone 68% of the day, which means the only time they're not on their phone or accessing their phone is when they're fucking sleeping. So the fact that we have no laws governing what's happening, or it takes a goddamn act of Congress to get somebody arrested for threatening someone's life. Like, I had a dude literally come on camera, put on a bulletproof vest, show a gun, and say, I'm going to kill you. I sent that shit to the police. He goes, well, until he comes to your house. I was like, bro, if somebody robbed the bank, right? And it was on camera, is that enough evidence for you to go arrest them? Okay, no, okay, it is? Okay, good. Now, what if a guy enters the bank with the gun, looks around like he's going to do it? Would you go check him out to make sure he was not going to actually rob the bank? Well, yeah, we would have to. If that guy said he's going to kill me, he showed the gun, he said he was going to do it, he called my name specifically. Why is that illegal? Oh, it's because it's the internet and it's cross state lines. I said, bro, it's 2021. How long is that going to be your fucking excuse? Like, we have to get better at this, or more people are going to lose their life, and this shit's just going to get worse and worse.
So, and then that drives me to my next question. Where is this Great Londini movement? What's the absolute goal of all this? Are you looking to grow this to a point where legislation starts getting changed? Are you looking
not federal legislation, but yeah, state and local, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, so your goal is to start getting some legislation changed to make these type of actions have consequences, and more immediate consequences, and not necessarily taking so damn long and being pointed out.
Well, there's two schools of thoughts to this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can either hold the social media companies responsible. They're making $50 billion a year, right? You can hold them responsible, which will never happen. Or you can hold the state and local officials accountable for it. There's two easy ways. Here's the thing. The problem would be less frustrating. The reason why I get so frustrated, I think, is because the solutions are not difficult, right? And unfortunately, even though China is not the greatest of countries, this is the only country in the world where this is as big of a problem as it is, for the most part. China, the place where this app comes from, they restrict the amount of time that teenagers are allowed. The government restricts it. They say, listen, you get 4 hours and you're done. They don't let you on this app at 13, right? And there's a certain amount of time, at least from last time I checked, there's a certain amount of time you're allowed to be on this app, right? Also, in China, you have what's called a social score, meaning that if you're a cankerous asshole harassing people, your social score goes down. And then at a certain point, you're not allowed to be on the internet, or not internet at all, but it's all tied to your social score, right? Meaning that if you're, just like we all have a criminal record, right? If you're out there doing things in the physical world to harass people, that shit affects you. You can't get a job, can't do other things. Because most of the people's lives are being held in the social part of it now, eventually there's going to have to be some kind of a record tied to people so that they cannot, if they've already been proven to want to groom children, or they've already been proven that they want to harass people or dox people or swat people, which is getting people killed, getting them losing their jobs. Eventually, we're going to have to come up with a system like we have in the physical world to prevent people from doing these type of things. Eventually. I'm not saying that
right now,
that inclusive, and I'm saying I understand the problems, like when the government gets involved, they start restricting, political views and stuff. I get it. I get that there's complications, but why is there no conversation?
Right, and I understand that. And right now, the current argument is, well, TikTok has its guidelines, and plenty of people have been, banned for the guidelines that are going on within TikTok. But here's the thing: those guidelines are flawed. Whether you want to believe so or not, those guidelines are flawed.
The same person made that argument. So he watched one of my documentaries and he said, "Well, they already have rules."
That's true, but
they
they're
do have
flawed.
Rules.
They are flawed.
According to TikTok's own report, 98% of all content banned by TikTok was through their algorithm. Now, why is that? And what is an algorithm? Well, an algorithm is a computer program designed to look at a lot of things to try to imitate what a human can possibly do.
It's literally a math equation. That's literally what an algorithm is.
Right.
It's a math equation.
So that means 2% of the videos are being taken down because people are reporting it, which means anybody who says they're being mass reported or their videos are being mass reported, your chances of that being true are very little. So it means TikTok is taking down videos. Now, I understand that there's been hundreds, if not thousands, of creators like myself who've been banned 9 times, who've been banned for reasons that make no sense, right? And TikTok does have a lot of great rules. The problem is that if I told you that your child went into, let's just say, the mall and said, hey, not only should you die, but I think everybody in your race should die. You should die. And matter of fact, I'm going to send people to your house. Now, after that moment happens, and in the mall, let's just say you're a police officer and you hear, not a police officer, you're a mall cop, and you hear that child say that. What is your responsibility?
Your responsibility is to apprehend that child and take care of the situation.
Tell their parents, right? Or
right.
Tell somebody.
Correct.
The thing is, I get it that TikTok's doing a great job. They're doing a much better job than when I got on there to try to just get rid of all these bad actors, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's a small part of the problem. The problem is that if you're going to maintain an app that allows minors on there, and by the way, 90% of the shit's happening for minors, you need a better way to associate that minor with their parents, or you need to associate that minor with something. And no world and no scenario in the United States can a 13-year-old commit crimes and have nobody else know. And their response is, well, I'll just delete the video eventually. I've had videos, the Puberty Helper account, which turned out to be a 15-year-old boy, literally was grooming children for 4 months, almost 1 million followers before somebody finally took that account down. And the reality is that the algorithm is not going to be doing the job. It's people like us that are doing the job. Right. We have to make videos so goddamn big that some of these accounts get taken down. And that's not our job. I mean, it could be our job if you want to hire us to do it, but it's not our job. So the question becomes, how do you hold accountable a company that's making money off of children, creating content, and marry up the responsibility that somebody has to have with that content? Now, and not just for the children, for the adults. What happens when actual crimes are being committed? Does the police have to come and request for you to tell them that information? Or is it the responsibility of the people who own the app to get those people turned over to the police? Because the worst thing that can happen to you from TikTok's perspective is you get a device ban. But what if you literally are on there putting out someone's personal information and telling somebody to go kill them or hurt them, which, by the way, happens every day on this app by big creators. What happens to these people? Absolutely nothing. And they have a whole criminal division. And I cannot find one record of anybody ever being turned in to the police for committing a crime that these people so adequately tell you that they're capturing through the 98% of the videos that they're banning. Why are you just banning a video? That's like deleting the evidence. If there's committing crimes on your app, right, and you give these people an account, why are they not being turned into police or something being done so that these people can stop perpetrating more crimes? I don't care if you're blocking the videos. That's great. But if you opened up a wormhole and people are sliding through that thing, that's a fishnet. Grab those people, turn them into the freaking police. Grab those people, tie it to their parents. Make sure their parents know their kids are committing crimes. It's because all they got to do is delete the account. Listen, I don't care how great you are banning them. I can create 10 accounts right now and do 10 terrible things a day. And I can create an account within 5 seconds to create terrible videos every day. And every 3 or 4 days, you'll delete those accounts. But it's not getting rid of it. It's not stopping it. You have to stop the people from doing it. TikTok knows who they are. They know their address. They know their parents' name. They know who's paying for the internet. All that shit's collected. They tell you that they're collecting it. So why aren't you using that after these people are doing these things? Why are there not more people being drawn off this app? And the answer is very easy. Go look at what they just talked about 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. TikTok just hit 1 billion users. They don't want to get rid of the users. They want more people like that on this app. They need to have 2 billion followers because that's how they beat Instagram. If they don't have 1 billion, then they're just as good as Instagram, and their profitability goes down. They don't give a shit about you.
Right. Have you reached out to these social media companies to try to have these kind of conversations? And then what was your response? What was their response to you?
The current security officer of TikTok, the chief security officer, is a guy that I actually worked with. I know him. So I've had a conversation with him, and I can't divulge everything that he said because
I get it.
NDA, but he basically said, like, listen, from the American perspective, from inside of because he's obviously from the American side, their company is doing every single thing they can to get rid of the problem as much as possible, to the point. And this is all something you can Google. And we're talking about TikTok. This is all over the internet. To the point where TikTok put out a memo that was put out on a lot of different news articles.
Oh, that was just about half a year ago or so.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Where they said that they're banning people with disabilities, people who are gay, not banning, but they were suppressing their content so that it wouldn't get as much attention, so people would troll them less. So their idea was that if you got less attention or gave these people less traffic, then they're less likely to be trolled by a number of, like, let's say, maybe they'll get only trolled by 10 people versus 100,000 people. That was the logic. Then, of course, they said that, well, that wasn't happening in America. That was only happening in other markets where they were testing it. Not likely, because the things that they were saying, they were happening to me. Like, when I started doing content, they started putting me in these religious categories. All my videos were about religion. I wasn't out there looking for religion. But in the article, they said that people who they considered controversial, they were putting them in the religious categories. So as soon as my account started getting banned, I was seeing nothing but, like, Christian videos and videos about, like, Buddhism.
So they were trying to alter your idea of your current ideas. They were trying to alter your morality, it sounds like, almost.
Who knows what they were doing? What I'm saying is, the bottom line is that the thing that frustrates me the most about this is that I look and I read all the time about what the problems are, what's going on with social media, and what the amount of people's lives that we're losing, with the alcohol epidemic, the opioid epidemic, the divorce rate, the child abuse rate, all these things that are going on in our society. And the one thing that stays consistent, as far as, like, if you want to try to, like, chart some of these terrible things, like, for example, it's not hard to see. CDC actually did it for us. They said since 2009, the rate of suicide keep people aged 10 and 24 between 2009 and 2019, which is the last time I did the study, it's gone up 65% since 2009. Do you know what happened in 2009? They put Instagram on phones. Social media wasn't on phones. You had to go to a web browser.
Oh, okay.
2009, they put social media on mobile devices, and it's the more those apps started coming up, you can just almost like if it was just like an echo chart, right? You see those numbers going up. 65% suicide rate increase in children. And by the way, that's just successful ones. They say, according to their studies, 100 times that number attempt to take their own life. And no one's sitting there looking at that going, wait a minute. They just gave anonymity to all these social media companies so they don't have to, they don't have
to take responsibility for the
exactly.
actions. Correct.
So, and as far as I can tell, there's only been 3 class action lawsuits, from what I could tell, against TikTok. But I know there's been a beheading.
Yep,
at
that
least
one was very
5 or 6 suicides that have been on the app. I know that there's been hundreds of people groomed. I know that they've tried to dox me. I know that they've actually, there's about 10 people that just got swatted. Now it's not TikTok's fault. What I'm saying is that they know who did it.
Right. And they're not doing anything to remedy the situation.
Don't give a shit. They don't give a shit. The reason why they don't give a shit is because they're saying, well, if it violates my community guidelines, then I'll stop it. But what happens if it violates the law?
That's the thing, right? It didn't affect the guidelines we set out, so therefore, turn a blind eye.
Well, I'm just saying is if you started a business and someone broke the law in your business and you didn't report that, you're likely going to jail.
Yeah, you're liable.
It's happening all the time in this app. And it's not even questionable. It's not a gray area. Mm-hmm. They're breaking the law all the time. I talk about doxing, harassment, pedophilia. Like literally, right. I don't know the textbook definition of pedophilia. I have to look it up. But I think a 13-year-old in lingerie getting spit on by another girl while she's dancing provocatively. I don't know if they have to be naked for it to be pedophilia, but how is that not? Like one of the girls was in a pool. Her mom was choking her, right? While she was dancing to a song about getting fucked. She was 14. How is that not? That's what I'm sitting here looking at it. I'm like, am I crazy? How is this bitch not in jail?
Right.
Exactly. It is the mom doing it to her. I'm like, how are you not in jail? By the way, that same girl, just to tie it all together, threatened my life for making the video. Openly said she was going to come to my house and kill me. Because I said her daughter, who has 6 million followers, maybe you shouldn't be choking her in a sexual position. After depending on the video, she was in her Hooters outfit, or she was braless in a video where she was pretending to be Jessica Rabbit, or when you choked her in a pool sexually, or when you had your stepbrother grinding on her in the middle of the video. I point out that that's wrong, and these fuckers are threatening to kill me, and nobody's doing a goddamn thing about it.
Oh man, I gotta say, I love your passion behind this movement that you've created. And obviously, with what we're doing, I want to help in any way I can. And showing the support of what you're doing is right, correct, and just. I don't believe there are enough people like yourself that are doing what needs to be done. And you're choosing to do it. Right? You're choosing to do this because nobody else is doing this in the manner and to the magnitude of what you are doing this to. There's a reason why you are getting such support and notoriety and everything else. Did you freeze? You froze. No, you didn't freeze. You're just really still.
I like listening to what people say so I can hear before I speak. So.
No. I appreciate that. Yeah. But there's a reason why you're getting the notoriety and support and backing that you're getting. And it's not because what you're doing is wrong.
No. And I tell you, it's been an evolution. I'm the first to admit, like the evolution of like morality for a place with no morality. It's one limiting, but also it's very trying because I could tell you, yes, 7.3 million followers is amazing, but I could have 20 million followers if I just loosen my morality. Meaning, there are people on here, I won't say their name, that literally dox people on this app. Like they see something wrong and they say, "Here's their address. Look," and it's like to them, like, "Look what I could do. I could find their." Like the more disturbing they do to the person, which by the way, it's just. You just took a bad situation and you made it worse.
Right? Yeah.
So I had to make a decision early on to what I was willing to do to gain notoriety, and I wasn't willing to sacrifice someone's safety. And if you're listening to this, you should question any video you see with somebody putting someone's address or their job or where they work, or like, really, what did you just become like, is the punishment fit the crime? So if somebody said something just awful, or they yelled at somebody at a gas station, should people go to their house? Like, should a random fucking stranger just go to their house? Like, is that really what you want? Because that's what they're saying. Like, look at me, I'm cool. I found it.
You got to remember, the court of public opinion and the idea of social norms. Too many people think that, the law no longer affects those that are on, like you said earlier, on the internet. So therefore, any repercussion that comes about from any certain action is fair game, because, well, there is no right or wrong when it comes.
Do you know how I know they don't believe that, Josh?
How is
that?
They
don't believe this? Because if I did the same thing to them, it'd be a big fucking problem. Meaning, and I won't say the person's names because there's tons of them, but if I did the exact, by the way, all of them, including myself, prefer not to have my name said, because the thing is, I'm a veteran. Someone comes to my house, you know that I'm always 3 feet away from something that's going to stop that situation real quick. Right. I don't want to deal with all that, so whatever. But the reason why I don't put people's information out there for the most part is because I don't want my information out there. Ironically, all the people that do this on this app don't use their real name. Why? Because they don't want their information out there. Yet they're very comfortable if they determine on their own with their weird ass God complex that they're worthy enough to be doxxed because they didn't like what they did, or they don't like how they vaccinated, that it's okay for them to dox them. That's not okay. I don't give a shit what your political affiliations are. I don't give a shit if they were a racist. You are not the judge, jury, and executioner, unless we're going to live in some, I don't know, anarchist, Marxist utopian society for Marxist or whatever. Then we're not. So we have a judicial system. We have a process. That's the process these people go through. And if it's not a crime, don't commit a crime to try to stop it.
Exactly.
That's not a crime.
Exactly. I mean, I love the fucking passion you have behind what you're doing, and I love the mission of what you actually have. And if there's any way that we can help, What Makes Us Fire, any way I can help.
Let me tell you what I was going to say real quick.
Okay.
Because you're going to have a lot of editing to do, I'm sure. What I was going to say is that the actual goal right now is that every state and local government has a cyber crimes unit, right? Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, according to all the police officers that I've talked to, they're not equipped with the resources they need to be able to do a lot. Now, if you don't know, like, a subpoena is what they have to get. So imagine now being a part of a system where you have to get a subpoena for everybody who's being criminally harassed on the internet. The subpoena line would be fucking through the roof, right?
Right.
So a lot of the times, what I'm trying to get these police officers to understand, if we could pass legislature to where if we could just make this one simple measure of getting them to communicate with these people once they break the law. I understand you can't get a subpoena. I can understand you can't do all these things. But if you just made contact with somebody who was harassing a woman or a single mother or somebody with a disability, if you could just contact, and by them, it's going to be a child, contact their parents and just make a phone call like they do with truism. What's it called? Truant. What is it when you don't go to school? Truism?
You're truant.
Whatever, that word.
Yeah.
If you did the same thing that you did for people who don't go to school, and you just called the parents and say, listen, did you know that little Timmy is being an asshole? If you get the state and local governments to do that, which they could do, they have the resources to do, most of these problems go away. Just make that one little step towards the future. So what I'm trying to do is give them the tools that I have at my disposal, even train some of these police officers. Because, by the way, cybercrimes police officers aren't cybercrimes experts. They're just people that got the job and they're trying to train into it. I'd be willing to take my own people, write curriculum, go out there and show them how I do what I do, and then get these people to at least contact these parents so they can at least tell them, hey, your kids are being assholes. Now, after that, if their parents are fine with them being that way, great. But I have to imagine that there's parents out there that don't want their kids wishing genocide against all homosexuals. Right?
Correct. And you said something that kind of just threw me off. The fact that it's on a public media, a social media forum, that you have to get a subpoena to get that evidence blows my mind. And it's already there.
Well, because if I submit if I submit myself to an account, right, I agree to the terms of use of that account, right? Now, part of the terms that you have, which people don't understand, is you're agreeing to what they're telling you they want you to do, and they're agreeing to what they're going to allow you to do. Part of the agreement to cover their own ass in the agreement is that they're not going to release your information unless there's a court-ordered subpoena, right? Meaning that I can't call and get information about you. You can't call and get information. TikTok's not going to do that, which is why I always find it funny that people think they can get people's IP address from TikTok. It's not possible. But if I went to a court and I said this person committed a crime and I had money, I could hire a lawyer, and sure enough, I promise you, in a month they will have the information about who you were. Right? It's 100% possible. People have done it. It's not that hard. It just costs money, unless you're really good with paperwork. Right? So I'm saying is, why is there not a system like there is for the FBI, for the state and local government, to report cyber crimes? And if in that system we could have some kind of verification that there are people that are reporting. Now, let the police and detectives do the adjudication, or not the adjudication because that's for judges. But let it go in front of another court. There has to be some kind of system that says, hey, like for example, if you give a kid a driver's license, he goes out and does stupid shit, you take the driver's license away, right? Mm-hmm. There's got to be a system where we're patrolling what's going on in the internet. We got to protect our kids from being out there, because there are people looking to groom. And this is why the thing bothers me about that 14-year-old and her mom. I understand that like there's money to be made, and like by her doing that, it's outlandish, and she's going to make money. But if sometimes, unfortunately, when people lack morality, or they decide to leverage their God-given rights to do things harmful to other people, like children, sometimes you have to put regulation in place to correct that. I know that there are leftists, very extreme leftists, that think that there should be no rules and everything should be anarchy. But unfortunately, that's not the case. And it's not the reality, right? It's not going to be the reality in America probably ever. So there needs to be some kind of control mechanism that allows police, state and local police, to get more involved with the things that are going online, because what's going on online is it's terrible. And that's, by the way, my Netflix show is coming out, and this is why it's all fresh in my mind. There's all the things that we're talking about in the Netflix documentary. It's all the things we're talking about, hopefully, in the TV show that's coming out in the UK. It's all about this. It's all about coming to an awakening of what's going on social media, because it's fucking terrible. I mean, the stories would make you lose your mind about the things that are happening to just regular people just trying to make positive content. So
yeah, no, it's completely insane. And I unfortunately and I'm not even, I wouldn't consider myself anywhere near the notoriety that some of these other people that are going through that as well. But I was somebody tried to dox me or something like that, because Shania Twain song was played and it was taken in a different manner. And apparently the Shania Twain song was about being beat up, and the idea that, but it had nothing to do. It was a friend. He was like, when my friend says he needs something, when he needs some backup, and then the Shania Twain song played, well, somebody took it as, oh, you're glorifying SA. And it's like, no, that literally, you took it completely out of context. The song was not used for that manner in any way, shape, or form. But then here we go. Oh, I know where he works. I know where this and that. They were threatening to dox me and everything else. And I'm like, I'm confused, because art in itself is whatever the perception is of the person looking at that art. And if you're looking at a video and it has nothing to do with what you think it does, but your perception is that it is, just because it's your perception doesn't mean it's right or the absolute.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's why people have to get over the whole, we have to like filter out the cancel culture bullshit versus like real actual problems. Like for the most part, not always, but a racist, an actual racist, will tell you they're racist. They're not going to hide it. They're happy to be racist. That's why they're racist. Right. Or somebody who supports domestic violence, or thinks that women are, not worthy, chauvinist, most of them will tell you. So if there's a misunderstanding, like, which is what typically people try to drag me into all the time, why don't you just work it out like adults and stop trying to harass or dox people? Because if you filter out all that bullshit, and all we're left with is actual problems, like things that people can actually resolve, not like perception of, whatever you think somebody was trying to do. Like things that have no other meaning other than what they could, like no other
What they
possible
actually
explanation.
said and or
Yeah,
what
right.
they actually did.
Imagine how much actual work we could get done. If we're not worrying about who did or didn't get their fucking vaccination, blah, 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 blah. If we're worrying about
Right.
who voted for Trump, who didn't vote for Trump, who likes Biden, who didn't like Biden. If we just got rid of all that, I mean, it's still going to be there. Still go have your favorites, go do your thing. But if we didn't like focus all of our time and energy on that, like, because especially on the internet, you can imagine how many great things we could possibly get to. We could, I mean,
Yeah,
again,
we can
still
do
give support.
so many great things, and that's something else that I'm going to roll into now, and what you're doing with. And again, before I do, brother, I seriously do love the passion what you're doing, and I really do appreciate everything that you are doing. And you can't see it. You can't see anything. All I see is red.
I realized that this color in my jacket was. Go ahead.
A little bit of ADHD. I see.
No, I mean, I'm listening to you. I'm just like, it just threw me off for a second. Go ahead.
I love the passion of what you got going on, and know that you have support, and I am very grateful for what you're doing. But beyond that, going to the whole what we can do together with a bunch of people working together, and what you're doing for Tackle 22 Fishing is something that is beyond, like, I'm beyond thankful for the fact that you're doing this for Tackle 22 Fishing. The reason being is because there is a good, what you're doing is for something good. And if for everybody that doesn't know, on March 25th and 26th in Cocoa Beach, Florida, the Great Londini Meetup is going to support Tackle 22 Fishing. They are a 501c3 nonprofit who helps take veterans out on fishing trips and hopes to giving them something to look forward to and letting them know that we are here for them, we care about them, and that life can and will get better. That's Tackle 22 Fishing's goal. That's their mission. Great Londini learned about him. He said he was going to help him, and he's doing an amazing thing by doing this. My point being, if there was more people like this out on this social media app where we are working together with other people who are trying to make a difference in this world, it would, imagine the change that we can make. Imagine the change that we can make. It blows my mind that some of these people that have this amazing following don't use that other than for their own personal gain. And now I get it.
They don't just use it, they spend it. And
they spend it, right?
They spend it on, say, this is going to get me in trouble, but I got to say it, edit it out if you want. They spend it on gift battles, or they spend it on self-gratification. And not that that's not something you could do, and it's not like you're not breaking the law. But like, you only get like look at TikTok like this. And no matter how many followers do I get, 7,000 on my live, 200 on my live. No matter what I do, no matter what platform, no matter how, even when the TV show comes out, I'm sure there's going to be another resurgence. Whatever. No matter what I do with that popularity, it's a bank account. That popularity is all filling up right now. Like I could go do great and amazing things. I've met celebrities, I've met rock stars, I've met childhood heroes. I've done so many great things. I could spend all of it on self-gratification. I can go meet all these people. I could do so many great things. I could leverage it for more money. I could leverage it for whatever, but you're going to spend it. Okay. You're going to spend it somehow. So for me, the thing is, how do I take that leverage, or how do I take that momentum, and how do I turn it into something that means something? For me, money's great. I mean, but personally, I've already done well for myself financially. I've run a very successful company, so I'm good. So for the people that don't, I get it. Like, if you're a social media creator and like you're struggling like financially, and like you just you're doing it to make money, that's awesome. But state that. Here's where we get.
Got to be honest with it.
If
yes,
you're
absolutely.
saying that, like, I'm here to make money, and all of you that are here is here because I'm a content creator, and it's all about a job. This is a job for me. Great. But when you pretend to be a positive, philanthropic content creator that's helping other people, and there's zero evidence that, matter of fact, any chance you get to be supportive of events, it's what can I get? How much money can I get? How am I going to be adulated, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem. And as you can, not that I'm not using myself as an example, but I am using myself as an example. I will never ask for $1 to help a charity event. Matter of fact, I'm busting my ass to earn money for a charity event. When they asked me to do the 22 shot or whatever it was, that thing in Nashville, Tennessee, there were people that got paid to do it, right? I did not ask any money, even though I was the biggest content creator there. Cheer or Spread the Cheer USA. There are people paying to go there. I will not ask them for money to go to an event. Not because I'm a better person than those people. It's because what are you doing it? Like I'll spend anything that I get to turn that back to help people with disabilities, veterans, or trying to reduce the amount of suicide. Because that's what I'm on here to do. Now, if anybody says they're on social media to do anything other than make money, and all they're doing is making money, you have to ask yourself, like, what are you being gamed, or do you care? Because for me personally, when I watch these positive content creators not leveraging that to help other people, it bothers me because it's such an amazing opportunity, right? Because there are people that are suffering, right? And they're suffering a lot to the point where they're taking their own lives. And I'm not saying you should dedicate all your content to being this morose asshole talking about the suicide rate. I'm saying, could you dedicate 10% of your time?
Well, and that's
5%?
I don't know if you know who Pops951 is. He's a social media creator. He made that viral video, the march where my mother told me, and he transformed, and at the end he was holding the flag, and it became very popular, like over 1 million views. It was very, very big. But he created this movement behind him, and I had him on the podcast, and he's trying to use this newfound, for lack of a better term, influence to bring awareness to certain aspects of life that he believes in, similar to what you're doing. And I had him on the show and we were talking about it, and we were talking about this. We were talking about these social media creators that are putting out positivity, or their whole content is just them standing in bikinis or standing half naked, and all of a sudden they have millions, tens of millions of followers, all because they're sexy. And that's well and good for them. Hey, if that's what you're doing, fine. But what about like a Carl's Jr. commercial type thing? Just one time, I don't know, be running down the beach in your bikini, doing a whole, lifeguard situation. Then right when you get up to the camera, check out TheGreatLondini.com and tackle 22 fishing, turning it into some type of Carl's Jr. commercial. I don't know, something that you are using this popularity that you have and this influence that you have in whatever realm it is that you have it in, but putting that effort towards something more than yourself, something greater than yourself.
Well, what my account proves is exactly what you just said. Like, you could be an old dude, right?
Mm-hmm.
You could have all the issues in the world, which I have tons of them. And if you're truly trying to do something good, you could literally set the world on fire. And I say that with all honesty. This has only been 9-10 months. All those thirst traps that we're all thinking about, we passed them in 4 months. The reason is because all that shit looks great, and you'll have a lot of men and women that will support you. They won't follow you. They'll support you, but they won't follow you, and they won't follow you to do anything. At the end of the day, all those people come and go. Matter of fact, if you went back 6 months, the same people that were popular are not the same people popular 6 months ago on TikTok. Right. You have the Willy Wonka guy. You have the two guys. Remember those guys that did this whole dance in the background? Like, where are those at? The Island Boys. Where are they at? You don't know, because they were popular and they moved on because they did something and they're moving on, right? But if you want to make a change, if you want to be effective, it can't be about you. This is why I tell people all the time, I'm not the Great Londini. The Great Londini is an idea that I had. We put this out there that you could help other people and you could stop other people from hurting other people if you just understand that the social media world is not that much different from the physical world, and that it's everybody's responsibility to police their own, to protect their own, get back to a more of a community mind idea, like the internet actually started off with. You could actually affect change. And all those people that are out there that are not leveraging, again, not all of their time. That's not realistic. I still do stupid videos. I do the what would you do videos, but some of their time to help other people. And not only will they not do that, here's the part that pisses me off, is that there are creators out there that are positive creators that will shit on people like us because they think it's going to advance them, knowing full goddamn well all we're trying to do is make positive content.
Right.
But because of their attitudes or their image of themselves, like they have to have this, like, nobody could be better than me. Like, I'm not going to your event. I'm this, or no, not you. Or I'm like, bro, it's not about me. In fact, if I could take TGL out of the event and it would sell a fucking ticket, or if I could take the Great Londini's name off it and it just sold more, my name would not be anywhere on this fucking thing. because it's about saving veterans. But these people all want it. Like, they have to have, like, you have to pay for me to come do this, or you got to do that. I'm like, come on, man. Like,
that's something that I just can't get behind, because what I'm trying to do, what you're trying to do, is more important than we have found it to be more important than who we are. Like, the mission's more important than us, right?
well, if you're the brand, it makes sense. But that's what I'm saying. Like, there's like people. I'll give you an example. He's his brand, right?
Right. He's his own brand. Yeah.
And then, like, he developed this kind of comedy thing, and he's his own brand. So it makes sense. He has to be him to do his own thing. Like, his name is Udi. That's him. And he does a lot of charitable things. Like, he
absolutely does.
Right. So what I'm saying is, if everybody who made it to a place on TikTok on the grounds of positivity, or just positive 10% of the time, and looked out to help other people, there's not been any event that I've been invited to that if I thought that was doing something positive that I turned down. I don't fly. I had to drive to Nashville, Tennessee. That shit was a bitch. And I'm going to have to drive to Vegas because I've been asked to present there, and they want to give me some award to support whatever, but all the proceeds are going to a charity. I will literally get in my car and drive for 2 days to go help these people. Right. I'm not asking you to be crazy like that. What I'm saying is, you can't show up at an event. You can't donate to an event. You can't, I mean, your whole content is popular or is about positivity. You can't do anything.
It's upsetting that the idea that they have and what they got is not the same as ours. But again, if people that have different ideas, then people would all be the same, and then that would just be boring.
Yes, it would be more boring. Yeah.
It would be way more boring. I'm gonna go ahead and start winding this down, man. I've got you on here for almost 2.5 hours now, and I really do appreciate the time. I appreciate the conversation.
Well, I wanted to make sure you had enough to edit. Okay.
Oh no, like I said, Think Joe Rogan podcast. He's had podcasts that went on for 4 hours straight before. So, but I really do appreciate the time and the passion that you have behind what you're doing, and I really do thank you for your support in stopping the suicide rate, not only within the civil service realm, but really in general, is something huge, because that's what my platform's on. My platform is, yes, we do focus on the civil service realm, military and first responder. Yeah. However, we help everybody that reaches out for that help. And the reason why I focus on the civil service realm so much is because mental health is quickly becoming the top 3, if not the number 1 reason of death within the civil service realm and within our professions. Just in 2019 alone, more firefighters died via suicide than they did in the line of duty. And that is ridiculous, which is telling me that mental health is quickly becoming a number 1 killer of civil service members, be it military or first responder.
And 1 in 5 people, every 1 in 5 adults every year will suffer from some kind of mental illness.
Correct. And within the civil service realm, multiply that times 10. And with the suicide rate, multiply that times 4 within the civil service realm. That's just one realm of professions that people who are sacrificing already to help other people are exposed to, right? So that's why what I'm doing, and that's why I have the passion that I have with it, because I was almost a statistic. I was almost a statistic in September of 20. I remember the day, September 20th, 2020. And it was a Sunday. I remember it vividly.
Yeah.
And I don't want another brother or sister to have to go through that. So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. And to have people like you support other nonprofits and other people that are trying to make a difference like they do, because of the difference you're trying to make and because of the history that you have of being a veteran, is amazing. And I got to say thank you, not only for me, but I'm pretty damn sure on behalf of everybody else that you are helping. It's huge.
Yeah, I mean, it's good. Like I said, and I think that you are the same mind. It's like we got something. We're given something. Some of it's the second chance. Some of it's a little bit of TikTok popularity or social media popularity. And how are we going to spend it?
Right. And I like that term, is how are you going to spend it? And I really do like that term. I usually end my podcast, man, with about 3 questions. And the 3 questions can spark another 10, 15-minute conversation. It'll be 1 or 2 word answers. No big deal. No right or wrong answers. But my first question is fairly simple. Well, it's not fairly simple. A lot of people have problems with it. But say we are on the Great Londini podcast, but your guest was yourself. You're the host, by the way. The guest was yourself, and you're interviewing yourself. What's one question you would have asked yourself, and or piece of information you would have liked to have shared that we didn't touch on?
I'd say probably the thing that I think needs to be said more that's not sexy about what I've done is the preconceived notions that people have about not just me, but about what I've started, right? Okay, so let's get through some of the things that people have said about me, right? Real quick, just knock them out. People have said I'm CIA, I'm FBI, I'm a legal hacker who's doing all these things. As a person, Leo, the person who started the Great Londini Movement, all I am is a person who's been doing IT for the majority, more of my adult life now than I did before I was doing IT. So meaning there's been more time in my life where I've been doing technology than I haven't. I'm an expert in cybersecurity. I'm an expert in engineering. I'm a developer. I write software. I'm expert in infrastructure, network infrastructure. So who I am has not a lot to do, especially with my work, with what I do on social media. Now, obviously, if you're being theatrical and wearing a mask, like the anonymous mask, you play up the whole hacker thing, right? Which is what I do, because I'm being theatrical. Otherwise, I just stand there in front of the screen looking at you with, this face and being like, hey, stop bullying. And it's not going to get me anywhere, right? So the theatrics of what I do are intended to be theatrical, but also I guess what I didn't anticipate is all the rumors that would have been started about whether or not I'm CIA or FBI. I'm not CIA. I'm not FBI. I was in the military. I was in the Marine Corps. I have worked for almost every single one of those government agencies as a contractor from time to time, but I've never been an FBI agent. I've never been any kind of law enforcement whatsoever. And like as a person, I'm not looking to push the agenda of any anonymous groups or any hacker groups. I don't associate with Anonymous. I actually don't like Anonymous as an idea. It's not a group. But because of how Anonymous started, which is basically a troll group, I'm more of a fan of the Guy Fawkes mask in the movie V for Vendetta than I am for the Anonymous group. I'm just not a fan of it. I don't illegally hack. I've never hacked in my life anything illegally. I am an ethical hacker, meaning I get paid to penetration or pin test or test the technology and information security.
Anything that you have done that way, you have been given full permission to do so.
I've never done anything illegal.
I've
maybe a couple stupid things here and there when I was younger, but nothing now. I'm not getting into people's databases. I'm not hacking mainframes or whatever. Okay. So that's the preconceived notion that I want everybody to know, that we're not here to do anything other than just to help people. What we do as far as the bullying part is literally the smallest part of what we do. The majority of the other stuff we're doing is literally going on the dark web, running scripts against all infrastructures and literally trying to take down as much child porn, take down as many pedos as we can. That's literally what the whole thing started up. But unfortunately, the thing that gets the most attention is us calling out people who are harming others on the internet, which is fine. But the movement itself is just an all-encompassing movement to try to make the internet a safer place for people who are just trying to use the internet to be creative and positive.
I love that you're clearing up a little bit of the rumor mill, right?
Well, the rumor, I guess, makes it more popular and more sexy. But again, this year the motto is positivity over popularity. I don't want anybody to follow me because they think I'm anonymous. I don't want anybody to follow the account because they think that I'm going to harm people. I'm never going to. I have no desire. I'm too fucking old. I just don't. You know what I mean?
No, I get it. I think we are both getting up into that age where it's like, unless it's directly affecting me or somebody that I care about.
Hands on me, I don't. You do whatever you want.
Exactly. My second question to you, brother, is: do you have any questions for me? It's really simple.
No, I mean, I have a lot of questions about how you started and how you, like, what made you start the whole thing. Because the interesting thing about what you said about how you started the charity is the specific niche and that in the gap. So why
the financial gap?
Like, so why did you choose that area to focus on for helping veterans? That was my question.
Well, it's not only helping veterans; it's helping, again, all civil service members. So anybody that has been in a profession, be it military or first responder, they're in a profession that serves civilization, their community, their nation. Just let them know we're almost done, I promise. And but that's what I started up. Now, the reason why I started this part in the nonprofit is directly associated with the financial aspect of getting mental health help, is because I had to make that choice. So prior to my attempt in September of 20, there was a point in time where I realized I needed help, and I needed help bad. So I started reaching out to inpatient mental health facilities. And within the fire department, if you're a career firefighter, there is a union called the International Association of Firefighters, and they have a facility that is dedicated for first responders only, which is awesome, because as a first responder, if I went out and looked for private help, therapists, psychiatrists, there are very few out there that are familiar with having to deal with a civil service member. I cannot tell you how many stories I have heard, and having a personal story of going to a therapist, starting to share what's going on, and the therapist saying, you might be a bit too much. Your line of thinking might be a little bit too dark. What you've seen and what you dealt with is not what I'm used to, because they're used to having a individual, somebody that's in the general population, go through a tragedy, and it's fairly simple for them to guide them through that tragedy and becoming better. Now, when you're talking to a civil service member, somebody that is exposed to those tragedies on a daily basis because of the job that they do, there is this lack of empathy that therapists are really hard. It's hard to find that common ground for people that don't deal with civil service members, because with us, it's very easy for us to turn on and off our empathy to do the job. Because if our empathy was turned on all the time, we wouldn't be able to do the job. We'd be crying all the time, or upset because of what we're seeing. Anyway, I reached out to the inpatient mental health facility, the Center of Excellence that the IAF had, and they evaluated me over the phone and said, yeah, you can go. This is when you can come. This is how much it's going to cost. And I was like, awesome. I was excited. And then the harsh reality hit me that I might not be able to work for up to 2 months.
Because you're dealing with your mental health. Right?
Because I'd be dealing with my mental health. It's an inpatient mental health facility, meaning you are dedicated to that facility through that program and until you graduate. Now, they don't hold you there. The only reason why they would hold you there is if you were actually suicidal at that moment while you're there. And then they don't even keep you there. You go and you are actually committed to a more stricter mental health facility. They told me how much it was going to cost, and then told me that I might be away from work and home for this certain amount of time. Now, I probably could have said, all right, I can use my sick time to go and get this treatment. Well, sick time only pays me my base pay. I was used to working overtime. I had a second job at the time, and this was to support my family. I would have not been able to support my family and pay the bills I needed to pay without overtime and just without my second job, with just working baseline pay. If I could have convinced Workman's Comp to pay for the treatment, awesome. Treatment's paid for because afterwards, right? Like you still would have to pay the bills and then get your money back. Yes, so you pay the bills and then you get the money back. But Workman's Comp, while you're gone, doesn't pay you your full paycheck. You get a percentage of your paycheck while you're out, i.e. meaning my family would have been having to deal with less income than just the baseline income and me just using sick time, on top of me not working overtime and everything else. So I was stuck with the decision: go and get the help that I need and put my family through financial stress and burden, or continue working and making sure that my family doesn't go without. I'm going to choose my family 110% of the fucking time. So I went through this whole process, and then months went by, and then I ended up having my breakdown, my depression breakdown, and almost ending my life. And it took people within the fire department reaching out to other therapists that actually deal with civil service members and firefighters and first responders, started talking to them, and I started getting the help that I needed. It wasn't in a inpatient mental health facility. However, I was able to get on a more steadier set of meds. I was able to get more reoccurring therapy from a therapist who understood, and I started getting better. When I started getting better, the realization hit me that had I had the opportunity to go and get that help when I needed it the most, I may have never had that episode. Now, I can't say for sure. Obviously, I'm no fortune teller, but the likelihood of me having that episode would have been way more lower percentage. But because I wasn't able to, because I was worried about the finances, not only associated with the cost of the treatment, but my family, the bills, the house note, the car note, groceries, my kids needing new shoes or clothes, medications. All those things are going to have to take a hit because of my mental health. Yeah, so that's
you're like, all right, it's either I fix myself or I keep my family going. Yeah,
correct. It's a very I came to the realization that if I had to make that choice, I'm sure there's a lot of us out there that had to make a similar choice. And I want to make sure that the whole financial aspect of going to get that help, all of the financial aspect of going to get that help, is not a deciding factor for anybody that is dedicating their lives to helping others. They're already sacrificing too much. They shouldn't feel like they're sacrificing even more just to help themselves.
Do you do anything for the this seems like another problem with that seems to be the workman's comp, right? Like, so is like is there any system?
So workman's comp is an insurance thing. Workman's comp is an insurance thing.
Like after, right? So
yeah, so afterwards. So that's what I'm saying. So say somebody did get workman's comp, right? But workman's comp is only paying a portion. That's fine. Hey, cool. You got your treatment taken care of and you're on workman's comp, but you're still concerned about the loss of income. Reach out to us. We will supplement that loss of income. The idea of what we're doing is, hey, if your insurance is going to cover the treatment, great. Give us 2 months of all your income, your first job, your second job, your overtime, the business that you run. Give us 2 months of that. We'll average it out and we will pay you just like you were being paid while you were working, while you're getting
so you
help.
don't just give 1 lump sum, you actually just parse it off.
Correct. We want to we make sure that it's just like they're still working the same type of hours, the same type of overtime, the same type of second job.
And what do you do to generate that kind of money though? Like, cause that's gotta be a shit ton of money.
It's a shit ton of money. So we took worst case scenario, say a volunteer firefighter who couldn't get workman's comp, and the insurance, a lot of the insurance within volunteer movements do not cover mental health. They only cover any type of physical injuries. So worst case scenario, volunteer doesn't have any mental health insurance, right? To go to an inpatient mental health facility for anywhere between a month to 2 months can cost up to 10 grand alone.
Oh, wow.
Just the treatment. And that includes the housing, the food, the treatment, the therapy, all of the above. That's just the treatment.
And especially with like people like veterans and first responders, I'm sure they're like, I ain't spending $10,000 in my
Exactly. And so not only that, now they have to convince the jobs that they're working at that this is treatment that they need. So if they can get sick time, or if they can convince that work that, I need this treatment so I can continue living, because I've been feeling like I want to not live anymore. If they can convince their job to be okay with them going to get that treatment and keeping the job, which, by the way, we are going to try to help with in talking with their employers, right? It'll be a lot easier to talk with the government employee because of laws, or certain laws have been changing, which are great for mental health purposes. But when it comes to outside of that, like I said, volunteers, and you're talking about a private company, we'll talk to that private company, be like, hey, this is what we would like you to do for this individual. If you can't pay them, don't worry about that. We'll take care of that. But we want you to hold their position. Right. And so we're trying to figure out, we're trying to figure out how we can come about having those kind of agreements signed on and everything else, so this individual will go and get the help that they need. If they don't have it, their work's not going to pay them, whatever. We take care of everything. It can be anywhere between $10,000 to up to $25,000 per individual.
How do you guys generate? What kind of?
Well, so we just got our 501c3 in September. We are a brand new nonprofit, bro. Brand new nonprofit. We started in January of last year. We got our 503 in the state of Texas, which is a nonprofit corporation in the state of Texas. But we got our 501c3, which allows us now to do national. We can be a nationally recognized nonprofit organization. And that was just this past September. So right now, the nonprofit is in the process of building up the capital so we can start that grant, because ours is going to be through like a grant process because we're going to have to vet the place that they're going. We're going to have to vet the mortgage bills, and we're going to have to vet the income that they say that they have and everything else. It's going to be a process, but anything mental health is a process. All right. We're going to have to vet the individual too. And unfortunately, I hate saying that, but then when you put something like this out there where you're saying, hey, we will help you with this, people will come out, well, I have this problem, send me the money. So we have to there's a lot of legal paperwork that, hey, we are going to make these payments for you, but we need that information. And there's a lot of legal mumbo jumbo between that we have to figure out prior to allowing somebody going and get that help. It's way more complicated than the idea that I had, but that's how it all started. And that's what we're doing. Right now, we're in the process of trying to build the capital to make sure that the machine that runs the mission does not fail.
That's awesome, man. Well, if you need any IT help and any of that stuff when it comes about, you got my information.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm telling you, we already do. I made my website on freaking Squarespace, and it's like,
well, to be fair, I did mine because I'm like the plumber. Like, have you seen my lives? I wrote a whole program to thank gifters like real time, but like I don't spend a lot of time. I outsource it, but I'm saying like if you need the help for like the process, like automate the process of getting documentation, storing it, like repositories, stuff like that, I can help you figure out.
Oh yeah, that would be awesome. Because right now we're just using Google Docs, and even that's more confusing for me than.
Yeah, there's a much better way. Matter of fact, all right, well, we'll talk about it. I don't want to bore people with it.
No, you're good. No, it's good. The fact that you're even offering to help, man, I appreciate it. And I appreciate the question. It gave me a chance to talk a little bit more about the nonprofit and the idea behind it and where it came about.
You should. It's a good thing. It's not a good thing. It's an amazing thing what you're doing.
Well, there are no other nonprofits doing what we're going to be doing. There's none. There's a bunch of nonprofits that will offer to pay for the treatment, that offer free treatment and everything else, which is all well and good. And we need those nonprofits. And we will probably be working with those nonprofits because if an individual, it not only will be beneficial to us in helping save money and so we can get some more people help, but we can get that individual to a facility that another nonprofit is willing to help them with. And then we'll work with that nonprofit. Okay, you guys are taking care of the treatment. We'll take care of this aspect. We'll supplement their income and stuff like that. So we're in the process of networking. We're in the process of building up, like I said, making sure the foundation in the machine is strong enough and well oiled enough to not allow the mission to fall. Our first year as a full nonprofit, full send and being fully transparent, because we started this with no capital whatsoever, is being split 50-50 right now, 50% towards mission, 50% towards operating costs, because it is our first year. Our goal is that
people don't understand how much a website costs. People think that shit's all free. Like shit costs
money. So just Squarespace alone and the domain costs almost $200 a year. Yeah. That's just for a simple website. Now and that's without all the bells and whistles and the extras that I could add on and make the website look better. If I did that, I'm looking at like $400 or $500 a year on top of the insurance that I have to have for my board members and officers, on top of the insurance I have to have just to have a fundraiser. I have to have general liability insurance just so I can hold a fundraiser for What Makes Us Fire.
And by the way, if you remind me after this girl that's in my movement, her name's Landini Baroness. She hooked up my website. She's a web designer, is what she does, but there's no web designers anymore because it's all Squarespace shit and MySpace, not MySpace, Facebook. But she can hook up your website. So,
dude, that'd be amazing. But yeah. Anyway, I appreciate the question and allowing me to talk about the nonprofit and allowing you to get to know about it. I might even be reaching out to you to help us with certain events later on in the future as well.
However I can help, man. As long as it's until I get over this flying thing, which I'm working on, it's got to be hopefully on the East Coast. Vegas is still such a rough one for me, but any way I can help, any way I can spend any capital I got from doing what I'm doing, I'm more than happy to spend it on good cause.
I am in the process of reaching out to creators of having we're going to do a live fundraiser night similar to what they did for the American Heart Association last year. Yeah. But obviously it's going to be not like, because we don't have a button on TikTok, and applying for that and getting approved for that is fucking hellacious.
Well, hopefully I'm getting verified according to them, which means they're going to give me somebody to talk to. So we'll see. I put in the application. They said you're eligible to be verified. And I'm like, oh, that's great. And then it's like, okay, well, give me some more paperwork. By the way, all paperwork giving me information that I'm not going to give you, like my name. So we'll see what happens.
Anyway, my last question to you, brother, is you're on What Makes Us Fire, and I'm a firefighter, and this is me being very the logo itself is a Maltese cross. It's it's a firefighter symbol because I'm very original. I'm not original at all, but it's not necessarily about what makes us firefighters or anything else. It's more of a question, right? It's more of a, what do you think it is that gives us the fire to do the things that we're doing for other people, that allowed us to be those individuals that sacrificed of ourselves to do the jobs that we did? You a Marine, me a firefighter, others as EMTs, others as cops, others as Army, Navy, Air Force, people that have dedicated their lives to serving the civilization that they live in. What do you think it is that within them that gives them that fire to do that?
I think that some people are born with the notion that their life is bigger than themselves. I don't know that it all boils down to empathy. I don't think everybody's, as empathetic as everyone probably would like to believe they are. But I think there are people out there in the world that realize that to be good, to be happy, to be strong, to be viable, that you can't just be those things on your own, right? You have to have a community, you have to have a family, you have to have a society, and being a part of the whole or the greater good outside of yourself. It's a lot of self-preservation involved with that, and it's also it's some people have that grain in them for a duty, whether it's nature versus nurture. Some people are raised that way with like parents that taught them that you get a lot from this country, you get a lot from your community, and it's up to you to give that back. So I think it's a lot of different things. I think for me, the most honest answer I could give is it's all selfish for me, because I I have a lot of issues focusing on myself. Like I have a lot of issues hyper focusing on my issues, or hyper focusing on what I'm not doing right, or hyper focusing on, again, because I beat myself up about a lot about the things that don't go the way that I wanted to. And I find that focusing on other people, keeping the focus off myself, and turning that focus on helping others, and making people's lives as good, if not better, than my life, right? Because I've done so well. I've been blessed. God's blessed me. I've been given so many, gifts. I've been given so many opportunities. I mean, with all the stupid mistakes and things I've done in life, I should have been, you know, in jail or ditch, or definitely not doing as well as I'm doing. So for me, it's almost like it's what makes me feel good about all the gifts that I've been given, and it makes me feel good about. It gives me the ability to not focus on myself, therefore causing myself inner turmoil. So it has a lot to do with that. I would love to give you some answers like, well, I've just, God bless America. No, it's at the end of the day, I'm a broken person. I'm broken, and the only way I could feel any kind of glue, putting those pieces back together, is by helping other people and seeing that I'm making a difference. Because it's really easy to fix other people's problems if it's just, hey, show up here, or give some money here. You can actually see tangible help and change. It's not easy to do that for yourself. It's that simple to see actual growth. And sometimes it's not even that real easy to bring happiness. If I walk into a live, like you said, and somebody freaks out, I'm like, oh my God, it's like, that's happiness, that's joy. If I can donate $100 to a charity, and like that, like feed somebody, you just help that person. So for me, it's mostly keeping myself sane and realizing that there are other people that are out there that are worse than me. And if I could focus on that, it keeps me not focusing on myself. And at the end of the day, it feels good to help other people. So
Would you say something similar to the effect of maybe what you're doing kind of gives you a sense of purpose?
no, and I would love to say that, but it doesn't. And I'm just being as honest as you can. The purpose that I have in life is not geared towards helping other people. The purpose I have in life is to give everybody the opportunity to have a life as good as my life. That's the thing. So when you say you help people, it gets into a really kind of weird area, right? because there are people in life that have all the opportunities in the world, but they squander them. Or there's people that have all the opportunity to get help or whatever that help may be, including myself, right? Remember we told you my story. So my goal in life is to just make opportunities available to people and set up things for people for them to help themselves. So, how do you do that other than just, teaming up with people that already got formulas, like your formula? Like those people have to reach out to you. They have to work through the system. You're not gonna be able to save anybody. But preventing a platform for people to help themselves when there's no otherwise would not have been one. That's what I'm all about. So it's not. I would love to say that it's a grandiose, great gesture that I'm doing. At the end of the day, I'm broken. This is my medicine. I'm taking it by helping other people. That's what I'm doing.
Amen. And like I said, there's no right or wrong answer. What works for you works for you, and what works for another.
But I'm not.
No. Oh shit! I wish I was as calm as Buddha and as enlightened, but there ain't no way in hell that ever is gonna happen. That's for damn sure. Well, brother, I really do appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you for sharing everything that you did. Thank you for opening up as much as you could, and thank you for sharing your passion for what you have going on right now. I truly believe what you're doing is a great thing, and I know that I'm not alone in that sentiment. So again,
well, remember, tell everybody. Was it the cheer? What is it called?
Spread the cheer.
Spread the cheer. I'm nominated for Cheer of the Year and motivational.
Yeah, so that's the crazy thing. So the Cheer Choice Awards, and I was going to give you a time to plug, but you plugged a lot when you were talking about. So
I do that.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. So the Cheer Choice Awards being put on by Spread the Cheer USA, sponsored by Soldier Solutions, which, by the way, I am wearing some of Soldier Solutions gear. The Cheer, Frankie's an amazing guy.
Yeah.
Spread the Cheer USA is putting on the Cheer Choice Awards, which is an award show showing thanks to social media creators that they truly believe are making a difference, not only on social media, but also within their communities and around the world. The Great Londini and myself, I'm going up against this guy.
Really?
Yeah. So What Makes Us Fire is in the Cheer of the Year award, which is the humanitarian award, along with a bunch of other amazing content creators that are making a difference. He is also in the motivational, inspirational, which again, What Makes Us Fire is in. So me and you are duking it out on that one as well. Which one do you want to win?
Because one of them I'm just not going to promote, and the other one, which one do you want? Just tell me.
Bro, here's the thing. The fact that I'm even on the same list as you and a few of these other creators that are on social media, I am beyond thankful for, because that second round of voting was done by our peers within that category. And the fact that I made it onto that list with you individuals.
Who would you vote for, by the way?
No, sir.
Lie.
No, sir.
What?
No,
I'll
sir.
tell you who I voted for.
All right, for the humanitarian, I'll tell you who I voted for.
Go ahead.
Forward Project.
I don't know who that is. And I'm going to tell you this truth. I'm not backing out. I literally just picked a name because I didn't remember your name. I didn't remember anybody else's name on that list. So I literally just picked, to be as fair as possible, I picked one person around.
Oh, well,
if I had known you were on there, I would have picked you because I didn't know anybody else on the list.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But you didn't know like JT Laybourne, Ed Dudes? You don't know any of them? Really?
I would love to meet these people. But again, it goes back to, not to these people, but it goes back to, you have to understand my position. There's nobody on that list with even close to half the following that I have. So some of these people, not them, some of these people get like this ego thing. I was like, and you know what? I've been guilty of it too. So I would hope that we could all get past it to all work together. But some of these people I've never reached out to. They've never reached out to me. I would love to meet all of them, and I hope I meet them all
in Vegas. You will meet Brian and Kendra Ward from Forward Project. They are a crowdfunding foundation or organization. Their son, Eric, lost his battle. He was a part of the 22 a day, and they give out rocks. They give out these rocks with Eric's name on them in remembrance of him, and people will take them and put them into a place that basically to remember Eric's name and to bring awareness to the 22 veterans a day. So actually something that you are very, very, very passionate about. That's what they're about. So I would love to get you in contact with them. When I told them that you were going to be on the show, they were actually very excited for me because they knew you were a veteran as well. So, and that you're
Well,
helping
hello,
tackle
if you're
22.
listening to the podcast. I'm sorry, I don't know who you are, but I will definitely try to reach out to you.
Yeah.
And let me just say that. Let me just put this out there. One last disclaimer. For me, anybody who, I don't give a shit how many followers you have. You have 10, you have a million, you can have 10 million. If your goal is to be positive, and that's truly what your goal is, I don't give a crap who you are, what you are. Tell me what you're trying to do. I will be more than happy to spend any time I can to try to help you promote it. And I hope you guys do the same. I hope you, rather than listening to like some dark, scary hacker who wears a mask, who whatever, come listen to my content. Come listen to what I have to say. I hope you listen to what you just heard. Come help me try to do what I'm trying to do, because I can promise you there's not one person who's listening to this podcast doesn't think that we should have less kids killing themselves. Just similar as you can listen to what he just said, and none of you can believe that firefighters or servicemen or police officers don't deserve to have their medical bills paid for while they're trying to take care of their own mental health. I don't think anybody can disagree with that. So why not just help? Just do what you can to help out. Anybody who can help out. Follow him. Help him out with his charity. Go to the website. Go to the event. Go to all that stuff. Like, just do something. Don't just sit there and listen. Don't be like, oh, I wish you can. You don't have to do it, by the way. We're doing it. This guy's dedicated his life to doing it. I'm dedicating my life to doing it. You don't have to be the one out there in the front lines. Just be the one supporting the people on the front lines.
That would be amazing. That'd be amazing. But again, Cheer Choice Awards, Spread the Cheer USA. Landini and I are going up against each other in the two categories. He's in the humanitarian, the Cheer of the Year, and the motivational, inspirational. We also are in the military and first responder category, going up against gentlemen like Infantry Guru and others like that. So
Guru's a good dude.
Oh, he is a good dude. I'm actually in talks with him about having him on the show a little bit later on as well. So
very intense dude. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, the thing is he's very intense, but he has this smile on his face. Like, go ahead, just make one wrong move, just one.
Most gunnies do. That's the rank where you just decided, well, fuck it, it's too late. I can't. I can't get out now. I'm so close to 20, so I'm just going to piss off everybody below me.
Oh, yeah. And before we go, I also want to mention the Great Londini Meetup happening in Cocoa Beach, Florida, March 25th and 26th. Go to TheGreatLondini.com, which, by the way, is also his TikTok tag. You can follow him on TikTok. Just look up TheGreatLondini.com. Go there, click on the events tab. You'll learn a little bit more about what's going on. Get your tickets. For everybody going that does purchase a ticket and that does register, when it asks you who referred you, please put What Makes Us Fire.
That's right.
Please put What Makes Us Fire. The person.
So are you actually coming to the event, or are you just buying the tickets?
No. I'm coming to the event.
Yeah. So it's $1,000 to the person who gets the most people to register. Cash, but not money out of the profit, because we're handing every single dollar to that charity. We already got enough gifts and and donations. So every single dollar that we raise, including the tickets, which by the way so far is around $6,000, I think. Wow. Every single dollar we get is going in the hands of the charity. We're not taking a damn dollar, nor would we ever take a dollar. So the more of you that come, the more money we're going to raise them. And my own pocket, I'm giving that $1,000 to the person who generates the most people to come with them. So
that's awesome. Yeah, put What Makes Us Fire. What Makes Us Fire takes any and all donations. And if this is something, and this is a route that we can get. And here's the thing, even if we don't, the fact that you guys just get out there, come show support, tackle 22 fishing in the Great Londini.
And cash, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, no, nope. It's going into the nonprofit.
Well, but you can say whatever you want. What I'm saying is, I'm handing the person who has.
Okay. For anybody, that if it was me, it's going into the nonprofit, is what I'm saying. But yeah, I got you. Just like this podcast right now is actually part of the nonprofit. So any type of sponsorship that we get for the podcast, any type of revenue goes to the nonprofit. I was asked by my lawyers when we set this all up, hey, do you want the podcast to be separate?
I understand all of it. It's fine.
Yeah, he was like, we can keep the podcast separate. So if you get any sponsors, it goes to you. And I was like, nope. Mission's more important. I'll figure out my
help
finances.
Getting a hold of anybody that's scared to come on your podcast, send them towards me. I know Udi was supposed to come on here. Me and him only talked a couple of times, but I'm sure I could talk to him and tell him to get on here.
Oh, I reached out to Scales because Scales was on the podcast.
Scales.
Officer Scales, he's the one with the two different eyes.
Never met him.
Never met Scales? He was part of the dissolved crew. We won't get into that. Anyway, brother, again, thank you. What Makes Us Fire family, have fun, stay safe. This was the Great Londini, better known as, he is better known as the Great Londini. This is Leo better known as the Great Londini. You will not see his face.
No.
You will not see his face on the YouTube version. Just sorry, we
Should I
agreed
say
to
real
that.
quick why, or does everyone pretty much understand why?
I'm pretty sure they understand why.
Okay, good. It's just because it's my personal preference. I don't like showing my face on the TV show or the documentaries I've done. I just don't show my face, or even when I did the news, even in the TV show that's coming up in the Netflix documentary. I just prefer that like my face. I don't want to walk into a fucking store and be like, "Oh, are you the Great Londini?" No, I'm not. I'm just, you know what I mean. So just, and plus people want to harass dogs. I'm not okay.
No, you're good. You're good. Your face will be blurred out. I'm glad that you didn't ask me to change your voice, because that's a pain in the ass when it comes to editing.
Listen, if you want to find out who I am through doing a voice analysis, you deserve it. Come get me. Okay?
This is the Great Londini, or let me rephrase, this is the creator of the Great Londini Movement. There you go. Have fun, stay safe, show some love and peace out in the world. You never know who's going to need it. You never know if you're going to be the one to make the difference, and making that difference, it does feel good. Be the change you want to see in the world without letting the world dictate how you see that change. I promise you, if you just become the best version of yourself and you put that out there, you will make a positive difference. I promise. Have fun, stay safe, peace. You can say bye now.
Cheers.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Leo, better known on social media as TheGreatLondini.com. Go give him a follow, support his cause, go check out his content. He just got verified on TikTok. That is right, he has just gotten verified, and we cannot be more proud of him and for the movement that he has created and for the movement that he continues to fight. And I really do believe people like him need to be out there. I know his ideas aren't always popular, but that's okay, because he believes in what he's doing, and I believe he's doing it in a very responsible way and making a difference in other people's lives, getting rid of these people that are being horrible people online. And you know, a lot of us would like to say that we're doing something about it. A lot of us would like to say that they're just trolls, but you know, some of us are affected by the things other people say. And he's making it to where, or let me rephrase, he's trying to make it where we don't have to deal with those type of people. People that just want to make the world a horrible place for others, because whatever their reason is, they feel like they need to. Well, Leo feels like he needs to stop. And WhatMakesUsFire is behind him on that, 110%. Leo, brother, thank you again for coming on the show. Thank you for sharing your story, man. And thank you for sharing what you went through as a child and as a veteran. It means a lot. It's that time of the show, everybody, where I'd like to say thank you for listening, thank you for following, and thank you for sharing What Makes Us Fire, the podcast and the nonprofit. If you're not following us on social media yet, you can follow us with the tag @WhatMakesUsFire, no spaces, on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, all of the above. If you'd like to subscribe to the YouTube channel, which we would greatly appreciate, look up What Makes Us Fire, all one word, space podcast. You will see the logo, and then you just hit subscribe. You can go check out all the other podcasts that we have. You can check out, you know, the pretty faces behind the weird voices, minus this podcast because I had to blur out his face, but that's okay. If you'd like to reach out to me, ask me any questions, whatmakesusfire@yahoo.com is the email. Please give me a minute to get back to you. It does take a little bit for me to sift through all the emails and make sure that I respond in kind. I have responded to an email to somebody, but I thought it was another email and it was really confusing. I'm not really good at all that. Sorry. But yeah, if you'd like to reach out to me, that's where you can do it. You could also find all the information you would like to learn about the podcast and nonprofit at whatmakesusfire.com. Be on the lookout. We are looking at upgrading the website, making it look a little bit more smoother, making it run a little bit better. You can donate there via PayPal, or you can donate there via the Applos button, the donate button. You could also donate via Cash App with $ WMUF. If you do make a donation via $ WMUF on Cash App, please leave your email so we can send you a receipt for that donation. If you are finding yourself in a crisis right now and you need someone to talk to, the National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 100% free, anonymous, and confidential. Make the call, start the conversation, and get yourself off that ledge. The number is 1-800-273-8255. Again, the number is 1-800-273-8255. If making that phone call is just not there for you yet, that's okay. We have another resource we would like to share with you, suicidepreventionlifeline.org, where you will find a multitude of resources for you to start the conversation for yourself. Go and check them out. I would also like to state that the National Suicide Prevention Hotline or suicidepreventionlifeline.org in no way sponsor or support the What Makes Us Fire podcast, as far as I know. I definitely know they don't sponsor. These are just two amazing resources that I, Josh, believe they can help you in the time of crisis that you may or may not be in. Thank you all again. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for posting. Thank you for supporting. Remember, we are going to be in Cocoa Beach, Florida, March 25th and 26th for the Great Londini Meetup. And in Las Vegas, Nevada, April 8th and 9th for the Cheer Choice Awards. All that information you can find at WhatMakesUsFire.com. Much love to you all. Stay safe. Until the next one. Peace.